Recording in progress.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Town of Superior Board of Trustees, the Superior Metropolitan District Number 1 Board of Directors, the Superior Urban Renewal Authority Board of Commissioners, and the Superior McCaslin Interchange Metropolitan District Board of Directors. Could we all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Lydia.
Mayor Mark Lasis.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Neil Shaw.
Here.
Trustee Jen Cowish.
Here.
Trustee Stephanie Miller.
Here.
Trustee Bob McCool.
Here.
Trustee Jason Serbu.
Here.
Trustee Sandy Hammerly.
Here.
Town Manager Matt Magley.
Here.
Town Attorney Nicholas Hartman.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, up next is item 2C, which is approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes anybody would like to make to the agenda? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
We got a motion
Second.
from Mayor Pro Tem Shah, second from Trustee Hammerly. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. And we're on to item 2D, which is our board reports. Who'd like to go first tonight?
I'll go first. I have nothing to report.
Thanks, Sandy. Anybody else?
I can go. I don't have much. This morning, the Rocky Flat Stewardship Council officially dissolved. There were 6 municipalities that had pulled out of the committee, which resulted in the dissolution of it. So that was made official this morning. Information will be forthcoming on how to contact the DOE, and you can make arrangements to get the information provided in a different way. So, and then I guess lastly, I don't know if this will be my last meeting or not. It might be, but I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who's been supportive of me, and it's just been an honor to serve the town all these last couple of years. But I'm not going anywhere. I'll be around. I'm sure I'll be up at the podium, and just wanted to say thank you.
All right, thanks, Bob. Jason, all right? Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll go. Not really a whole lot to report, but I just thought I'd regale you with what the Halloween really, where it came from and the Irish tradition behind it. For those of you who don't know, Halloween is actually Shoan, which is a Gaelic term for November, and November 1st was the end of the solstice. And how the jack-o'-lantern came about, and Jack Skellington's apparent mystery of origin came from a gentleman named Jack Stangy, who was a cobbler in ancient Ireland, and apparently he was, for some reason, outside of his character, helped out a poor traveler who happened to be an angel. So the angel bestowed upon him 3 wishes. And in his true character, he said, okay, no one will bother me, nobody will want my cobbling, and nobody will sit in my chair. And the angel was so angry with his just mean-spirited wishes, he basically barred Jack from heaven. So the devil's turn to take Jack was, and then he, again, proper Irishman, decided to trick the devil 3 times, and the devil wouldn't take him, so he was set to wander the earth to the ends of time. So how did the jack-o'-lantern come into play in the United States? It was actually an American version of the turnip. In Ireland, they would actually carve turnips as jack-o'-lanterns, and if you've ever actually seen one, and I did one time as I was a child there, they are ridiculously frightening. They stink after a couple of days, and they begin to molt, and it's just the most ridiculous thing you'll ever see. So tradition has it that Jack would wander the marshes of Ireland with the turnip in his hand and a lighting coal on the inside, so that's how we came to our traditional jack-o'-lantern. So if you do come across Jack anywhere here, don't run, don't hide, just do what a typical Irishman would be and just invite him in for a Guinness. And that's all I've got.
It's going to be tough to top that.
I've just got a few things to report. Really on the economic development side, I just want to highlight a few ribbon cuttings we've had and then just let everybody know about a few that we have upcoming if you want to support our local businesses. So Casa Agave, Boulder Baked, and Image Studios recently had ribbon cuttings, so congratulations to them for starting a business here in Superior, and thank you for having faith in us. Upcoming ribbon cuttings on October 30th, which is this Wednesday at 4 o'clock at the Community Center. There's a home-based business called Thriving IBIS Leadership Solutions, so if you would like to go and support them, that's their 1-year anniversary. And then there's also a ribbon cutting for a new business existing, but now they have a storefront for CB Art Studio on Friday, November 8th from 5 to 8 at the Superior Marketplace. And then finally, for the Sister City, Day of the Dog is going to be this Wednesday, October 30th as well, 5 o'clock at the dog park at Autry Park. It's going to be a little chilly, but should still be a lot of fun. So anybody with your canine companions, please feel free to stop by. That's it for me.
Thanks, Stephanie. Jen?
Yeah, if you've got kids, it's likely you attended the Monster Mash this weekend. Last year, I went to the event, and it was so full of people. And so this year, it was really wonderful to see the adjustments that they've made to hold the capacity of all those people and kind of streamline the costume contest. And it doesn't seem like a big deal, but to kids, this is a huge deal for them to not end the night in complete chaos and sugar high. So just big thank you. I saw Michaela Gregg from our staff literally running around the place doing all the things. And then, this is hosted by our Superior Youth Leadership group. So shout out to Ashna Shah. She's headed up the event, and this is her last year doing it. So thanks to her for all that. And Stephanie mentioned the CB Art Studio opening. For any of you, just if you're not making the connection, Cora has done a lot of art classes at the community center with kids, and so this is her company, and they're actually standing it up from just what was less frequent art classes for kids to a full proper art studio to host classes. So it's really awesome to have seen it go from a community kind of offer to a paid something your kids can attend, and then now to this business piece of it. So that's just a really beautiful example of a local business standing itself up. So I think that's it. Oh, I wanted to say thanks to Bob. We know this is going to be your last meeting for this. And then also to Trustee Hammerly and Trustee Serbu. They're both running. Who knows what the future holds, but we will find out soon enough. But thank all of you. As you know, this is sometimes easy work, most times complicated, and there's a lot that goes into it. So just appreciate your time and effort in doing this, because none of us have to. So thanks.
Thanks, Jen.
I'll echo what was just said. A lot of times we get yelled at with caps in email, so it's sometimes hard to know. But it does happen, and I think the service by all of us on the dais goes appreciated by those of us that have been up here. So a couple of quick updates. One of them, this one's kind of, I'm not sure where to stick it. RTD, if anyone's ridden the AB bus to the airport, it's a disaster. It's full all the time, or it just drives on, it doesn't pick anybody up. So back and forth I've been having. If the bus is full, they're going to stop and tell everybody it's full and then drive away. In theory, there's a bus that's going to follow within 30 minutes. RTD has hired about 85 new drivers. They're in some various stages of training. They can't add more schedule back until the RTD board approves the schedule, which will be happening in January. So there are more routes coming, return to the FF2, more the AB bus that starts in Table Mesa rather than Boulder Junction, in which case it's pretty much full. My wife was on it this morning. Got the last seat before everybody in Broomfield had to stand the whole way. So that's underway. The other thing is, going back about 3 years ago, staff put in a request with Dr. Cog to create, below grade crossing between the Vista Corridor and the Ormond Roche Trailhead. The staff estimate at the time was about $2 million. So we got a scoping survey or scoping money. We put that together. It came in as $6 million, which we don't have. However, what staff, Brandon, was able to do is take this to the Regional Council of Governments, Boulder County, and it was a unanimous vote to take the money that we've been allocated and turn it into pedestrian crossing. It'll be one of the Hawks. So a little bit more work that needs to happen. But the great thing is, realizing that we don't have $6 million at the Dr. Cog or the 20% matching funds at the town, it was a heavy lift to get those funds, but the pedestrian crossing is still a huge need. Lots of people are crossing there between the Vista Corridor, as they should, to get to the open space. So super excited that that passed unanimously on Friday and anxious to kind of see that come forward in 2026. That's it for me.
Thanks, Neil. Good evening, everybody. Good to see you all. I also want to extend my thanks to staff and to our Silk Committee for another successful Monster Mash at the Community Center. I stopped by as they were setting up. It was pure chaos, but it looked like it was going to be a lot of fun, and then drove by later on in the night, and it was totally packed and looked like just another really successful event. So it's just wonderful seeing the Superior Community Center be used for those types of events, to see just people gather and get together. So great job on that. For those of you who haven't seen it yet, we've got another piece of public art thanks to our CAPS committee that was just installed in Rock Creek Parkway. It's entitled Silencio. It's in between Pitkin and Indiana. And I think that's a temporary installation, right, just until the end of the year. So it's not a permanent installation, but you should go ride your bikes by it, drive by it. It's striking. I want to thank Bob, Jason, and Sandy for your service on the board. Bob, I think this is going to be your last meeting. We're not planning on any meetings in November. We reserve the right to call them, though, so don't turn in your iPad just yet. And then Jason and Sandy, you're up on the ballot, running for re-election. Serving on the town board is not an easy job. It certainly doesn't pay well, but it's a certainly valuable community service to perform, and I'm really appreciative of all of you for taking the time out of your schedules to dedicate to the town. So in that regard, we've got an election coming up on Tuesday, November 5th, in case anybody's been sleeping, living under a rock. We have 3 trustees up for election, as well as a sales tax ballot measure on the ballot. And then of course, there's everything else that's going to be on the ballot. I want us all to just think about that whatever happens on election day, there's about half of us that are going to be upset with the results when our candidate doesn't win. And I think we should all just keep that in mind, that half of this country is going to be really upset with the results of this election. But that's how the democratic system works. One candidate wins, another one loses. But we're really divided in this country right now. We're divided into tribes. We got our information siloed from the news media outlets that we prefer, or through whatever the algorithms choose to show us. And that division isn't good for anything, because we don't see each other as individuals. We see each other as members of other groups. And that, in my opinion, leads us down a potentially dangerous and dark road. So it's my hope that after this election, we can move past these divisions, start to heal as a nation, and start seeing each other again for who we are. We're Americans. We care about this country. We care about our families, our communities. And I'm hopeful and optimistic for this country's future, and I know that we're going to get through it. So with that said, I just encourage everybody to remember to vote. You have through 7 p.m. on Election Day to return your ballot to the drop box here at Town Hall. You can mail it still, but the deadline's coming up. Today's the deadline? It's for mailing? Okay, so drop off your ballot. Don't mail it. Can't be guaranteed that it's going to be received in time. And that's what I've got.
If I could just add, I saw somewhere online that the Superior Dropbox, there was a line, and that's just really awesome to hear, because people were taking pictures of themselves, so that's great. It's great. I mean, it's wonderful. So.
It's good to be proud of your vote. So, Town Manager, Matt Magley.
I also want to thank Trustees McCool, Hammerly, and Serbu for your time on the board. I know it's not always fun or easy, and it's a big time commitment, so I thank you for your service. It's appreciated. That's it.
Town Attorney.
Oh, I just wanted to thank you guys too, especially the Bob, who either way is unlikely to be here. So thanks, and thanks for welcoming me in. I'm kind of new, so thank you all so much.
And Town Clerk.
And I ditto what the town manager says. I appreciate you and the time that you guys put in. I really appreciate the board. It's a lot of work. Thank you, guys.
All right. We're on to item 2E, which is public comment on our consent agenda, presentations, and non-agenda items. If you'd like to make public comment, we've got a sign-up sheet there at the desk. Please sign your first and last name and the town in which you reside, and we'll call you in the order in which you sign up. You don't need to give your actual street address. We limit public comment to 5 minutes per person. If you're participating via Zoom, you can use the raise hand chat feature, and we will recognize you in the order in which I see your hand raised. So first up. I've got Darren Levy first. Darren Levy.
Ready? Hi, I'm Darren Levy. I live here in Superior. I've lived here. I moved in right after the fires, and I've noticed the political signs in the elections that I've seen since I've been here out and about. And maybe the city attorney can correct my understanding, but my understanding is Superior, like every other town in Colorado, is under state law, which prohibits political signs on public property and in public right-of-ways. And so I would call on, assuming that that is correct, and I've researched and I believe it is, I would call on the city staff to go around and take down these signs. It's just not appropriate to have public signs or political signs on public property and in the public right-of-ways.
All right, thanks for your comments.
Hello, my name is Eva Malinowski, and I also live in Superior. And I would just like to say that I also agree with Darren on his comments about taking down the election signs that are on public land. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Who's next?
Susan Stanick.
Susan Stanish, come on down.
Hi, I'm Susan Stanish. I'm a resident of the town of Superior. As background to my remarks, I've lived here for almost 27 years. This Halloween, amazing. And so I've been here through many different issues faced by the town as we've grown and many transitions of boards of trustees over that time. I do really appreciate how our town government enables residents to have regular opportunities like this one to speak their minds in open meetings. I've noticed in recent times, some members of the community have repeatedly exercised this right to complain about various things and criticize and condemn the performance of the board. That, of course, is their right. I'm here tonight to exercise my right of free speech, to publicly thank all members of the board for their hard work and commitment to serving the needs of the town as best they can. I may not have always agreed with every decision made or every action taken or not taken by the current board, but I'm very grateful for the dedication and willingness of every member to take on the sheer number of hours that I know the job requires. I know this means attending many meetings, reviewing countless documents, collaborating with town staff, interacting with citizen advisory committees, as well as representatives of other town governments, county and state agencies, and individual residents. And there's probably a lot of other stuff that has to be done that I'm not even aware of. So to all of you, especially to those trustees that won't be serving with us after the upcoming election, I just want to say thank you for your hard work. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments.
President Malawi. Circle back. Greg Horowitz.
Greg Horowitz, Town of Superior resident. First, I want to say thank you to the current elected officials. What I'm finding out through this campaign season, this is not going to be an easy job, but I'm up for the challenge. And two, I want to show my support for two issues in the town. Number one, the garbage contract. I fully support it, and Superior has ambitious goals towards all of our sustainability. But I do ask that we allow weekly recycling pickup on that. And number two, I also do support the Grasso project, but I also applaud the board and the members that put a pause on it when they found out that it wasn't done the right way. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
Leah Rowan.
Good evening. Leah Rowan, Superior resident of, I think, 8 years now. I did want to also thank everyone on the board. I'm sad you're not still going to be running, Bob, but I think you've given such a thoughtful effort to your job, and I really appreciate it. And I think at sometime or another, I've spoken with each of you, I hope. And I know we haven't always agreed, but I'm sure it feels thankless most of the time. And I just want you to know that everybody recognizes, maybe quietly, maybe not saying it out loud as much as they should, but the time you give to the citizens here is really admirable. So I wanted to just come speak to the pay-as-you-throw because I feel like I can maybe bring some insight to it. I'm from Colorado. I also spent quite a lot of time all over California and in Minnesota and in Europe. And I think with the exception of apartment buildings, all of those places had pay-as-you-throw as my garbage collection, and it's amazing. So I just wanted to encourage you to vote for it. One option that we had was actually to rotate garbage with the organics and have recycling always be the constant. I know that's not on the plate right now, but that might be something to consider in the future. I think that, especially in Minnesota where they had extreme weather, it helped so much keep the community clean. It helped our older residents so that they didn't have to figure out transporting things as much. And it really was a great way to passively train people to do the right thing. Right now, I'm a Rock Creek resident. I'm not even going to be a part of it until 2028. But I actually subsidize the people that don't separate their trash. Because my 9-year-old and all of your children know how to do it. They go to EcoCycle and they are on it. They're telling me when I shouldn't put that cap in because it might mess up the machine, and that's not where the bags go. And if you kind of build it into the whole system, people will really participate. Our town will be cleaner. We'll have smaller garbage bins in our garages, and we'll have more space. And we're going to be helping the ozone, which we already know is like a huge issue here on the Front Range. We don't have any fines right now when you put things in the wrong bin, but we will. Someday we will, because we have a problem here. We don't even, effectively recycle, unfortunately, in Colorado. So this is a great way for us to get ahead of that curve. And I also think that paying in for an extra AV now and doing that all in a quieter and more sustainable manner just makes sense for us as a town to get ahead. It's a minimal difference that will make a much bigger impact than I think people realize if they haven't had that system before. The really small bins are great. And then I also wanted to just say, right now we're kind of looking at about 1,100 homes, I think, and most of those are 1 to 2 people, but that's going to triple in 2028. And most of those, I think, are families of 3, 4, 5. And for my family of 4, we might, sometimes at Christmas, have 2 small bags of garbage and a very full bin of recycling. And if I could even cut that in half and have some of that go toward organic composting, and then my tiny trash go in a tiny bin, it would make my life easier, and I think it would make everybody around me have an easier time too. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi there. My name is Reza Malouji. I was resident at the Superior, and my house was burned down to the ground, and insurance, it doesn't pay, so I'm looking for a miracle or something. Either sell the land or I don't know in that right now what to do. I was every time I go up there, see my empty land, I seen some illegal dumping up there, like a cement, concrete cement, extra dirt, somebody dumping in my land. So I've already reported to the town of Superior. They said there's nothing they could do about this. So now I'm just concerned about the storage, planning to build a new storage, Guardian storage to put in. And when we first bought our house, we thought it was supposed to be residential, not commercial. And it's a concern about, so what's going to be next? Because my situation is I can't afford to rebuild. The only thing I could do is just sell my land and trying to get as much as I can to move on, to go some other place, get me something, yeah, if I can. So that's my concern about the Guardians. They're gonna come over here, and then to be maybe some noise issue could be, I don't know how close they're gonna be coming to our border. So that's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Rodney Mitchell.
Hello, me again. Rodney Mitchell, used to be a resident. My house on 427 Blackfoot burnt to the ground, like many others. Like many others, I was also underinsured. I don't think I'm unique in telling you that my insurance company, State Farm, has denied a number of my claims. And one of them is they have not yet paid me what they owe me for the 427 Blackfoot loss. They refused to pay me for the smoke damage issue that I have on my two houses on the corner of Coal Creek and 2nd Avenue. I'm 70 years old this year. I bought the two houses that are smoke damaged that they refused to settle with me as part of a retirement kind of a thing, and I'm really at a hardship. In fact, I think I'd like to sincerely ask if you have employment for me with the town of Superior. I could use all the help that I could get. Now, I'm kind of saying that rhetorically, and I've got a very limited amount of time. What I'm speaking to is this, is I had a similar problem as this gentleman here, Reza, spoke of, and that is after the fire, I had people dropping construction waste all over my lots and my family lots and my smoke damaged houses. And I've done a yeoman's amount of work trying to address it, take care of it, and I think I've succeeded. At one point, though, Jamie Hedquist had put me together with Boulder Creek neighborhoods, and they had expressed an interest in storing dirt on my lots. And at that point forward, I had solved my construction debris dumping problem because in exchange for allowing them to store dirt on there. Now, I understand you have people in the neighborhood, because I've spoken with Martin Toth, your assistant town manager. He explained to me that you had a number of complaints about people who have new houses and they're tired of seeing dirt stored on my lots, tired of the machines moving the dirt around. They want it stopped. And I understand why the town determined that they wanted to put in a policy to make it onerous, burdensome, expensive to do the dirt storage. So I wanted to inform you and let you know that, yes, you've succeeded. You have driven Boulder Creek homes off my lots. They will be returning my lots soon, and then I will have to contend with the storage. So I ask of you to please reach out to the Boulder Sheriff's Department office. I ask you to put whatever kind of sway or juice or whatever kind of leverage you have with them to please enforce this dumping problem. I will do my level best. If it's permitted, I'll put up a snow fence. I will put up no dumping signs. I'll even ask neighbors to watch their Ring cameras. I'll do what I can. And I understand why you've driven my builder away from the storage of dirt. They're going to be off my 4 lots in Sagamore real soon. So that's that. I want to also make a further request, and that is this, is I am not putting anybody down. I get it. You're the mayor, you're the trustees. But when you set policy, your assistant town manager, Martin Toth, or Jeffrey Weathers, or Jamie Hedquist, they follow code. And there's very little flexibility. And what I'm asking you to do is have a heart. I am on my knees, and I feel like I'm being kicked. I'm getting kicked by the insurance company. There's $21 or $24 million that was raised for those of us who lost property. Guess what? I qualify for none of that. Part of the reason why I don't qualify for it is because it's income property. The other reason why I don't qualify for it is I don't have a settlement from the insurance company. So here I'm on my knees and I'm begging you, please have a heart and ask Jeffrey Weathers and Jamie Hedquist, particularly Martin Toth, and just say, could we ease up on the policy about dirt storage? Could we ease up a little bit about maintaining the lots? Could we just kind of be neighborly? I have a relationship with Jamie Hedquist already, and that is that she just calls me when she sees something she doesn't like. I'd like it to stay that way. Lastly, I know I'm running out of time, but I really want to speak to the Guardian storage unit. I had a nice conversation with the gentleman, Kevin Cohen, who owns Guardian Storage. I understand that they want to put in 50 storage units versus 500 or 600 traditional self-storage units. I paid a lot premium when I bought 427 Blackfoot. Kaufman and Broad told me, you're going to pay a lot premium because you're backing up to this nice, large residential, agricultural property, the Turnbull property. So you're going to have all of that space. You got a 50-foot easement, you got the Turnbull property, and I protested the Guardian storage unit for the same reason. But now I understand, my realtor tells me there's stakes. There's already stakes in the ground over there, like these guys are moving forward with the Guardian storage unit. And I'm here to tell you, we don't have enough time, but I have with me comps and solds that show that what the lots are worth and what the lots are likely to be worth by being impacted by putting the Guardian storage unit. Please do not approve the Guardian storage. Please keep the Turnbull property residential. It's what we bought. It's what we paid for. It's the premium that we paid for. It is what I think we deserve. And I think I understand where you want, Guardian storage unit, but they're creeping. And lastly, I would just say, if anybody wants to switch places with me, I've got a lot on Blackfoot that I will gladly sell you for a good price. But have a heart. Please do not approve the Guardian storage unit. Please keep it residential. It was what it was when we bought and when we lived there. And I promise you, when I speak with Martin Toth, a nice gentleman, he's very firm, very committed to his ideas about values of real estate and what will impact the value of real estate, et cetera. And he's mistaken. And we don't have time to go into it, so I'm not criticizing him behind his back. Martin, are you in the room? Okay. Jeffrey Weathers, are you in the room? I'm not disparaging these people. They're doing what they're told. You tell them. They listen to you because you're the trustees and you're the mayor. And what I'm asking you is to please have a heart. Please be flexible. I am not a bad man. I am not trying to make anybody's life difficult, but I'm on my knees and I'm being treated very poorly by State Farm Insurance. I've gone to the state of Colorado. I've talked to the Department of Insurance Regulatory. I have exhausted nearly every, except for litigation. And I'm told that that's a 2-year ordeal and there's a very good chance it's a 50-50. I put $75,000 on the table. The attorney runs with it. If the attorney fails, I lose the $75,000 and I pay State Farm their insurance. So I don't have a lot of happy options, and I'm begging you to please be easy with me. Have a heart. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Michelle was there.
Good evening. I'm Michelle Gazarek. I've been a resident in Superior for 9 years now, and I volunteer in our Advisory Committee for Environmental Sustainability. First, I'd just like to offer a big thank you to Trustee Serbu, Trustee Hemmerly, and Trustee McCool for your wonderful service. Long hours, available to listen to our comments, to our questions. First Friday attendance, so much patience and so much understanding. I really, really thank you for your service. It really makes a difference to be part of a wonderful town with volunteer people like you. Tonight I'm here to just advocate for the item number 5 on our pay-as-you-throw. So I brought my props because there's a lot of opportunity for education here and to kind of explain what's going on and so we can all get the right information. First of all, I just want to say we're working for our planet. And thank you to the town board for approving our sustainability action plan. It's truly a piece of the puzzle for our planet. And we have 7 pillars or categories in our sustainability action plan: climate, energy, clean water, clean air, transportation, regeneration and natural systems, and zero waste. So everyone thinks this waste contract is about zero waste, but I'm here to tell you it's going to hit all 7 of our pillars of our sustainability action plan. So currently right now, we pay for trash and recycling's thrown in. When you think about, and I'm just going to add 2 other bins here. One is our charm and hazardous waste, and I thank our town for sponsoring household hazardous waste cleanup days. I thank our town for sponsoring the education for our school kids to go on tours of charm in the recycling center and the landfill. So this is where we can put batteries. This is where we can put hazardous waste that should not be going in the trash or a landfill that's currently at the town of Erie. When we have stuff, we can also, in our trash, right now, we all have 96-gallon huge toters. We can recycle our glass, we can recycle our paper. We cannot recycle plastic bags in recycling, but we can take them to charm. We can recycle metal. We can also recycle, that's about all that I have in here that we can recycle. What we can't recycle that really goes to trash are like glue sticks, nail polish, diapers, tons of stuff goes into our trash. What we're right now is throwing our food waste in trash. In the future, right now, we have to pay $15 for this. In the future, this will be part of this and nobody has to pay extra. We have extra plastics that aren't recyclable, so they go in the trash. What we can do with this pay-as-you-throw is now when you look at the volume, there's very little in this. So right now, we're paying $14 for this, plus $15. We're paying a lot. With pay-as-you-throw, we can now decide to get a smaller bin for our trash, which our downtown Superior residents will love, and anyone living in a townhouse will love. We can get rid of this, and we can have all this paid for. That will help our planet. In addition, if we get the electric vehicle, we have clean air, clean energy, and by the way, all the food waste that we put in here, instead of we put here, we're not making methane in a landfill, and methane is one of the precursors to the ozone that gives us all these high pollution alert action days from the EPA. So we have clean air, clean water, better climate, better energy, and we can tap into zero waste and use our natural regenerative systems for compost on our fields. So just wanted to explain and hope you approve the pay-as-you-throw with the electric vehicle option. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments, Michelle, and always for bringing the props. We appreciate the props. That's how you do public comment, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening, Town of Superior, Board of Trustees. Thank you for the time to speak tonight. Hi, my name is Chris Allred. I work with Rocky Mountain Peace and Justice Center out of Boulder, and I live in Longmont. Tonight I'll be speaking regarding Rocky Flats. I'd like to thank Mayor Lasis for your many years of advocacy for responsible action at Rocky Flats, and also Trustee McCool for your service recently on the Rocky Flats Stewardship Council. And I'd just like to thank the town in general for being a leader on this issue for many years, going back longer than I had been involved learning about Rocky Flats. I've been studying this for about 10 years, and I've worked with Dr. Leroy Moore and John Lipsky and Dr. Ketterer and many others who have a very high level of knowledge on the issue. PhDs, Harvey Nichols, PhD in biology, and Dr. Ketterer is a PhD in chemistry, a very established scientific knowledge base. And I'd just like to share a brief history around some of the current issues at Rocky Flats. The one that we face right now is something called the Rocky Mountain Greenway. It's a mountain bike trail proposed to go through Rocky Flats. And we know that this is contaminated land, yet somehow through the mechanism of regulatory capture, State Health Department has ruled this land for unlimited use and unrestricted exposure. So there is now this trail for recreation through contaminated land. And so looking back through the years, the town of Superior in 2016 voted unanimously to oppose this project. Thank you for the wisdom to do that. Through many different meetings and tricky maneuvers, this was a system of manufactured consent. The people did not want this from the beginning, but it has progressed to this point. But some new precedents also along the way. In 2020, Broomfield withdrew unanimously from the project. And just recently, on September 23rd, Westminster withdrew, a full withdrawal. They're not going to be paying any more money into this project. And this was at the 11th hour because they are constructing this as we speak. And we've been fighting it since 2016. Like I said, it's manufactured consent. The people do not want this. And right now, I have some serious concerns about what's going on in Boulder County, because we have been going to Boulder County for a long time, and the health impacts are well documented. I've shared a few of those papers with you for reference. They have the citations that you can see. And Boulder County has had a real lack of transparency on this issue. They haven't had a public hearing, they haven't done a study session, and they talk about it behind closed doors. They don't invite the community to participate. On the other hand, just recently, Westminster on July 15th, they had a 6-hour study session, and they included a panel of experts from people in the community to help make their decision. And that the answer became clear. The community won that debate, and that's why they voted to withdraw. So what's happening with Boulder County, I just don't know what's going on with the county, and we need more of our city governments throughout the county to stand up to what's happening. Just recently, some $4.4 million was cut from their budget. That's money that was going to nonprofits, a social services safety net. I'd like to keep bringing that to light because I think that was something that's not right. And now they're still funding recreation at a former nuclear bomb plant. There's got to be some different priorities here for the spending. So tomorrow there is a business meeting with Boulder County. We already see on the agenda that they have 2 speakers, one with Boulder County, one with Jefferson County, who plan to promote the project. Yet again, they haven't learned that they're not including a voice from the community. They're not including a different perspective on the project. So I don't know how that meeting will go, but if you have a friend on the Boulder County Commissioners, I would really recommend please reach out to them before tomorrow, because it may be one of the last opportunities for them to change course. And Commissioner Stoltzman has already spoken out against this project very strongly. And now there needs to be one more or 2. I mean, ideally, this should be unanimous. This is a public health and safety issue. And so I just wanted to make you aware of that meeting tomorrow. And I was hoping to ask for your support. If you'd be willing to write a letter to the county, whatever happens tomorrow, this won't be over, because we'll keep speaking out and we'll keep standing up for public health, because this is a long-term issue. And these public health impacts are very long-term. These are generational. These are genetic impacts. These are long-term latency periods for cancer. And Dr. Ketterer approved recently in an AIR study, I'll just wrap up by saying we'd be very grateful for any support from the town to keep this off of the town of Superior's land. And I'd like to just pass around a sign-on letter that could be used as a reference, and I'll follow up further in email. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for your comments. Brad Walker.
Good evening, everyone. As I said last week, last meeting is political silly season, as I've previously mentioned. So in light of that, I want to say a few words about bullshit. Seems only appropriate. But first, I hope my words are understood to be mostly political humor. It is political season after all. The famous Mark Twain would never say the things today that we are so open to. But thanks to Facebook and Miss Stephanie Miller for reminding for that reminder that she often refers to Facebook. I'd like to think that he would converse with profanity laced with a lot of whiskey. I promise to keep my words strictly BS because that is what I see from this board and some of the folks running for office. The famous writer P.J. O'Rourke wrote a good book called Parliament of Whores. It's a great book. So much similarity to the Board of Trustees. Everyone seems to be yapping about the airport since it's political crazy season. I understand that candidates who have no experience on this matter will say whatever to get elected. It's political silly season after all. But Ms. Hammerly, good God almighty, the nonsense that you say about the airport is really just pure bullshit. You know that there is absolutely nothing you can do about the airport. Everyone at the national level has turned a cold shoulder to this board. At the state level, Kyle Brown did everything he could, and no one at the local level will even talk to this board. So when you say things like we're going to stick it to the airport, that's real political BS. But let's be real about things. I've woken up from the American dream and have developed a real appreciation of the Black experience in our community. If Superior were a Black community, do you think people would care about the airport? Hell no, because we're wealthy, entitled, and white. That somehow makes the airport a real cause that requires so much nonsense be spoken about that no one takes this board seriously. The worst one is Mrs. Laces, whose only recourse is to sue everyone. Well, now you got what you wanted, and that is no one will work with you. And your words mean nothing. Now that's some serious BS. Growing up in the South, I always dreamed about moving out west. The government respected individual rights. Men and women rode real horses and spoke the blunt truth. And that's no BS. But now we have people like Mrs. Laces who squat to pee. Be careful with that. You might get poked by your spurs. My wife lectured me again, as she always does, about speaking like Michelle Obama, and I try to respect her. Often I fail, but she's right. When you go low, I'm going high. So I've really come to appreciate what the Blacks in our community have experienced, because at the end of the day, my government doesn't give a damn about what I have to say. They're just going to do what they want. No BS on that one. But in the words of one of my favorite rap groups, damn, it feels good to be a gangster. Because when it comes to being an airport advocate, I'm a real gangster.
Thanks for your comments. Next.
Thank you very much today. I do want to first say thank you so much for all of your work as members of the board. I especially want to thank trustees McCool, Hammerly, and Serbu for all of your dedication and time spent for the town over your entire tenures. And I know no matter what is going to happen on election day, you'll continue to be involved. Democracy is determined by those who show up, and you have shown up time and time again. So thank you very much. Quick plug for the Home Rule Commission. We have 2 upcoming informational sessions, one on November 14th and one on December 2nd, both at the community center. The presentation is available to view on our website, superiorhomerule.com. You're welcome to view it. I'll be posting it on social media shortly. And if you have any questions about home rule or comments or clarifications, please don't hesitate to reach out to the Home Rule Commission at homerule@superiorcolorado.gov. Again, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Dalton. That's all. All right. Turning to Zoom. Anybody on Zoom like to give public comment? If so, please use the raise hand feature. All right. Seeing none, public comment is closed. And we're moving on to item 3, which is our consent agenda. We'd have 2 proclamations, one for Veterans Day, one for Lung Cancer Awareness Month, and we typically read our proclamations. So somebody want to take the Veterans Day proclamation? Take as much time as you need.
Okay. So for the Town of Superior Veterans Day proclamation, whereas the willingness of America's veterans to serve our country has earned them our lasting gratitude, and whereas on this, our nation's 69th annual Veterans Day observance, we celebrate and honor the patriots who have fought to protect the democratic ideals that are the foundation of our country. And whereas when the armistice ending World War I was signed on November 11th, 1918, more than 4.7 million Americans put down their arms and turned to the work of strengthening our nation. The end of that first global conflict was initially commemorated as Armistice Day. In 1954, Congress renamed the day as Veterans Day to recognize all those who have served in our armed forces. And whereas throughout our history, citizens from every corner of America have assumed the duty of military life, and whereas such service has required sacrifice, hardship, endurance, dedication, bravery, courage, and the highest level of patriotism, and whereas those who have served our country deserve special attention, and whereas in respect for and recognition of the contributions our servicemen and women have made, Congress has provided that November 11th of each year shall be set aside as a legal public holiday to honor veterans. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed, the Mayor and Trustees of the Town of Superior hereby dedicate and proclaim Monday, November 11th, 2024 as Veterans Day in the Town of Superior, and urge all citizens of Superior to recognize the valor and sacrifice of our veterans and to remember that freedom is not free. And these are the men and women who paid for the freedom all of us enjoy today. Proclaim this 28th day of October, 2024.
Thanks, Jen. Who wants to take Lung Cancer Awareness Month? Anybody?
I'll be happy to do it.
Thanks, Sandy.
A proclamation for Lung Cancer Awareness Month, November 2024. Whereas lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer death among men and women in the United States and Colorado, accounting for more deaths than colon cancer, breast cancer, and breast cancer combined. Whereas, according to the Centers for Disease Control, there were 7,200 new lung cancer cases between 2017 and 2021, and 2,108 deaths due to lung cancer between 2018 and 2022 in Boulder County. Whereas the 5-year survival rate for localized lung cancer is 60%, yet only 24% of lung cancers are diagnosed at this stage. Whereas screening for lung cancer for high-risk individuals using low-dose computed tomography can lead to the earlier detection of lung cancer and save lives, reducing the mortality by 20% when compared to screening by chest x-ray in the National Lung Screening Trial, and reducing the risk of death at 10 years by 24% in men and 33% in women, as demonstrated by another large randomized trial. Whereas funding for lung cancer research trails far behind funding for research of many other cancers, and additional research is needed in early diagnosis, screening, and treatment for lung cancer, as well as in lung cancer affecting women and lung cancer health disparities. Whereas lung cancer incidence is decreasing twice as fast in men as it is in women. Each year, more women die from lung cancer than breast cancer, and by 2035, more women will die from lung cancer than men. Whereas African Americans have the highest lung cancer incidence and mortality of all races, and disparities in lung cancer screening, diagnosis, treatment, and mortality are well characterized among African Americans and other racial minorities. Whereas lung cancer in individuals who never smoked is the 7th leading cause of cancer-related deaths and accounts for 17,000 to 26,000 deaths in the U.S. every year, 60 to 70% of individuals diagnosed with lung cancer who never smoked are women, and the proportion of lung cancers diagnosed in people who never smoked is increasing in the U.S., whereas radon is the leading cause of lung cancer among individuals who never smoked and the 2nd leading cause of lung cancer overall. Whereas the stigma surrounding lung cancer creates barriers to early diagnosis, treatment, and funding for research, has a detrimental impact on the quality of life of people diagnosed with lung cancer, and hinders awareness of and research into lung cancer risk factors other than smoking. Whereas lung cancer research is leading to breakthroughs in the identification of genetic alterations associated with lung cancer and in the development of lung cancer treatments, including immunotherapies and targeted therapies. Whereas organizations working in Colorado, such as the American Lung Cancer Screening Initiative and the Women's Lung Cancer Forum, are committed to educating about lung cancer and lung cancer screening and working to increase lung cancer screening rates in Colorado. Now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and trustees of the town of Superior, we hereby proclaim November 2024 as Lung Cancer Awareness Month in Colorado and recognize the need for research in lung cancer affecting women and lung cancer health disparities, and encourage all citizens to learn about lung cancer and early detection through lung cancer screening.
Thank you, Sandy. That was a mouthful. All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, item 3.
So moved.
Got a motion from trustee McCool,
Second.
second from trustee Hammerly. We're not spending any money, right? So all those in favor? Passes unanimously. And we are on to item 4, which is a review of our outside counsel's report on the home rule election issue.
Thanks, Mayor. The town's holding a special election for Superior voters to consider approval of the home rule charter. Special election is set for December 10th, 2024, and will be a mail-in ballot. A special election is needed because staff failed to submit the ballot question to the county clerk by the required deadline. As part of the review of what happened here, the town hired a municipal law firm of Wilson, Williams, Fellman, and Dittman to conduct a review of the town's communications and process leading up to the deadline for submission of the ballot question, and to produce a report of their findings to the town for review, which is included in the packet. The report concludes that the omission of the home rule charter ballot question was due to lack of oversight and follow-up from staff. The report also recommends certain changes be made to the processes and procedures for future town elections, and those included town clerk routinely maintains a discrete file of ballot issues that have completed their way through the particular process and are ready for placement on the ballot. That the town clerk share with the town attorney the contents of the file, together with a draft of the town clerk's proposed certification of the town's ballot content to the county clerk by at least 5 business days prior to the deadline for such certification, and the town attorney bringing a second set of eyes to this project or ballots provide safeguards for the process. That the town clerk properly share with the town attorney copies of ballot content or proofs provided by the county clerk for review and correction by the town. Also, town staff and attorney had a couple additional changes to our processes to be made, which included the town attorney adding a send to attorney for review checkbox to the election calendars that are sent out for each election, and the town manager's office to review and approve ballot language and sample ballot prior to being sent to the county clerk, which have all been implemented or in place for all future elections and the special election. Open it up for questions or comments from the board.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Questions, comments from board? I have Jason?
Oh, okay.
No, after you.
Yeah, man, I was just kind of curious. The attorney that we hired to basically check the home rule and work with the home rule committee, what was that individual's role through the process of getting this on the ballot?
She's another attorney at my firm, Catherine Sellers. Insofar as she worked directly with the home rule committee on the town side, I'm the person on the town side. And then we don't talk often, even though we work in the same office, but I'm the person on the town side. So I was on the ballot side, not her.
Okay, so was there any crossover as far as CCing on emails or information or communications where she would be privy to the process of this being?
She was not included in any communications.
So her
with the county clerk.
Her role through this would pretty much go through working with the home rule committee, and once it was established, she would step away, and then home rule would work with the town staff.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, from my understanding, Catherine's role basically paralleled the role of the home rule charter commissioners, right? So like as they drafted it, she was there to answer questions, give advice. Here are sample charters that could be used. But once it was actually submitted to the board, the Home Rule Charter Commission's work was done and Catherine's work was done. It was submitted to the board. We passed a resolution that said we're going to go to the voters in November. And, you know, at that point, it became a town and town attorney, responsibility to get that to the Boulder County Clerk.
Correct.
So, couple questions, comments, thoughts. I'm appreciative of everybody's efforts, kind of working through this this oversight and unfortunate oversight, and we're working our way through it. And obviously, we're having the special election, and what we're trying to do now is be accountable to the public to show this is what happened. These are the things that we learned. So I think it's good that we hired the outside attorney to do a review of the file. And I'm appreciative of the recommendations that he's making, and certain that this is not going to happen again. When I look through the actual emails that were produced, seems like if there's going to be a process improvement that needs to be made, it's at the time that there is communications initially with the county, where we're transmitting this is the proposed language that's going to go on the ballot for whatever is going on the ballot, whether it's trustee candidates, sales tax ballot measure, or home rule charter. We need to make sure that sufficient people are being copied on it so everybody has an opportunity to see that initial transmittal. And then second, when there is the back and forth with the county after the fact, when they are confirming the language and going through the whole Spanish translation of what the ballot content is going to be, there too, there needs to be sufficient additional people copied on those correspondence. So, and I know that that's the plan, right? That the town manager and town attorney, you're going to be at a minimum copied on that, because it doesn't make sense for necessarily the board to be copied on the initial stuff, because some of us might be candidates on the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
But I think once the sample ballot is drafted, I don't think that it's necessarily a bad idea to just send that to the board as well, and just have a third or eighth set of eyes on whatever's going to eventually get published. So I think that those are process improvements that are in place. The other thing that I did is I went and kind of looked to see if there was any other opportunity for us to catch this, because when the initial content was sent to the Boulder County Clerk, that was September 5th. The deadline was September 6th. So that was timely sent. Obviously, we didn't send the home rule charter at that point, but that's the initial transmittal. And then the sample ballot information came back to the town clerk on September 12th. And then there was a typographical error that was corrected on September 13th. My question that I had, and that's kind of where Jeff's report stopped, was after that September 13th correction. So what happened between when that ballot language was corrected and when ultimately we got to the point of no return, right? Because this board learned on September 23rd that the home rule charter question had not been submitted. And we were scrambling at that point in time with staff to try to see if we could correct it. But what we learned from the county clerk at that point was the ballot's already been printed and mailed to the military and overseas voters. And so there was a couple emails from the week prior, and the one that jumped out was there was an email from September 20th from the League of Women Voters who did catch that the home rule ballot question was not on the sample ballot. So I reached out to the Boulder County Clerk and asked them, when were the ballots actually printed and when were they mailed? And so the ballots were printed on September 18th, and then 123 of the military ballots were mailed on Friday, September 20th. So even if we caught the mistake on September 20th, notwithstanding that we didn't learn about it until September 23rd, likely there was nothing that we could do, right? The ballots had already been printed and they were on the way to the post office, if not already in the mail. So I don't think that there's necessarily anything that could have been done, with the full benefit of hindsight being 2020. So, I just wanted to kind of disclose that aspect of it because I don't think that appeared in the report, but I think it was just another aspect of the review to see if there was any opportunity subsequent to when the sample ballot language was certified for us to catch it. And unfortunately, there wasn't. But I think we learned what we learned, and we've got the controls that are being put in place. So for next time, and the time after that, and the time after that, I'm sufficiently satisfied that we'll have the appropriate controls put in place, that this won't happen again.
Just one comment. Typically in business, when we have things that are this important, we have a team of people that are responsible for it. That team has a title, it has a responsibility, and it's documented that way. And so I think maybe in addition to the controls, having a defined set of people, whether or not a board member is part of that team or not, I don't know, but at least within staff, that there's a team that's responsible for the ballot, regardless. If we have a new town clerk or town clerk changes, or, as things happen in business, right? And things get lost pretty easily. So, making sure you have a team that's defined and maintained and managed I would think would just eliminate the risk of this happening. So that's my thoughts.
Just a couple of quick comments, because, I do appreciate all the work that we're going to do on a go-forward basis. I'm still looking back. Unfortunately, the special counsel report is entirely reliant on emails. I confirmed with Kendra that special counsel didn't actually interview any of the staff members to kind of see what conversations may have happened. So Matt, at least I've heard from a handful of residents, your name's not on this report at all. What's your role in the day-to-day with Lydia? And the reason I'm asking that is someone asked you, how long has Lydia been on, town clerk? And I went back to the October 2022 staff memo. It says, since Superior is a statutory town, the state statutes require the town clerk position appointment be made by the town board. Day-to-day supervision of the position will continue to be the town manager. So I'm still trying to understand kind of why the town clerk was kind of on her own with respect to ensuring that this happened, and sort of what sort of broke in between relative to the process.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's multiple things that happened in this situation. So for the election in 2022, the town clerk resigned in September of 2022. So the ballot measure was in place, the ballot questions. There we had two, mayor and trustees, and then the SMID sales tax repurposing. So that was already in place. And then when Lydia was appointed, she worked with our former town clerk, Phyllis Harden, who had been here for 47 years in the position, to get through that election, and then also the 2023 election. In my entire time with the town, I've never looked at a sample ballot. And I think it's because Phyllis was in the office for so many years. She knew what she was doing, and didn't require the oversight that we've got in place now. And so we have a lot of day-to-day interaction, but on this issue, that oversight was just not there.
And also, we do have daily interaction. Also, you did ask me at a staff meeting if the ballot was certified. Said, yeah, everything went through. And just to be clear, I was a little confused because I was dealing with the bond counsel a lot on the Tabor issue. And I hadn't heard anything, regarding home rule. That should have been on my radar. Unfortunately, it wasn't. And I was dealing with a few other things, and especially that Tabor issue. And then when I had back and forth with the bond counsel, she was like, yep, looks good to go. I hit submit. That's where it went wrong.
And in addition to that, I did ask, but I didn't verify. So that was the other missing piece.
I do recognize that the Tabor question is the reason why everybody is confused by that ballot question. It is not simple, so I do appreciate that. All right, thank you.
Any additional questions or comments?
Yeah, the only other comment I've got, the 19th, we had the candidate orientation with the League of Women Voters. That was right the day before, right? that the ballots were going to be printed and sent out. How much of an impact did that make on staff's time? Because I'm thinking the League of Women Voters could have had this somewhere else, could have had it at the community town center, could have had it at a location. How much staff hours were taken away from this issue to focus on that?
I mean, the most staff hours for that event was just coordination with the chamber. Typically, we hold separate events. The chamber holds theirs, and then the town holds its candidates forum. That's what we've done in the past, but the league let us know that they didn't have the capacity to do 2 events, so then we started coordinating with the chamber to have coordinate one event, and we wanted to have it here at Town Hall so that we could videotape it and replay it for the public, and they were going to have it at the sports stable. And so it's a lot of back and forth with the chamber and the League of Women Voters to find a date that worked. And so it was more of that as far as time goes. But the chamber, once we've got the location and the date set, the chamber did a lot of the coordination for the event itself.
But the league's event was on October 3rd, right?
No, it was 19th. No.
September?
The leagues, they didn't do the orientation, staff did the orientation.
Oh, you're talking about.
Oh, you're talking
I thought you were talking about the
town board
forum.
orientation.
Yeah.
Sorry. I thought you were talking about the candidates forum.
No.
Yeah, we do that every, prior to every board election. And each department prepares its information for that night. And I don't think it had anything to do with this issue.
Okay. It just seemed like it was right in that the string of days. I was just curious. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry for the
No, you're fine.
confusion.
You're fine.
Yeah.
All right, I want to open it up for public comment. And if anybody in the boardroom would like to make public comment on this topic. Dalton?
Dalton Millette, just will make this quick. I served as chair of the Home Rule Commission. Thank you for commencing with this investigation, adding some transparency and clarity about this. I know we on the commission were very frustrated and upset that this mistake happened, but we will power through it. We always try to take an optimistic tone with things like these. Now we just have that much more time to educate people about home rule. So looking forward to the special election on December 10th. Your ballots will be mailed out to you. So I really want to thank the town for coordinating and working so fast and working with town staff to actually make this special election possible and getting the opportunity for Superior residents to vote on going home rule. Thank you.
Thanks, Dalton. And thanks to the Home Rule Commission for drafting and continuing to host these information sessions. Any additional public comment here in the boardroom? Anybody on Zoom like to make public comment? All right, seeing none, turn back to the board for final thoughts. All right, well, just like to thank staff for the transparency and for having this investigation underway and for answering our questions along the way. So, all right, we are now on to item 5, which is a consideration of a resolution approving an agreement with Republic Service for a solid waste collection services contract.
Alexis Bolin, our sustainability manager, is going to present this item.
Can you see which one it is? Oh. Oh, perfect. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and trustees. I want to start out by echoing the thanks that everyone else has given tonight to Trustee Serbu, Trustee Hammerly, and Trustee McCool. Thank you for all that you've done. So I'm here tonight to talk about finalizing the waste collection contract. I wanted to very briefly just recap. This has been kind of a long process, so just recap where we've been. This really kicked off in fall of last year when ACES came to the town board and got permission to have TASP provide us with some expert support for doing some research on what other communities' collection contracts look like, what our options might be, really getting us a solid foundation with our engagement in other pieces. In April, we sent out a survey to all of the residents on the town contract. In May, TASP did a lot of their great work, including engaging with some of our HOAs. In June, ACES came and did their board dinner with the town board, and this was a big topic of conversation. In August, we had a board meeting where I presented before we published the RFP on all of the different scope options. And then last month in September, there was the work session where the board reviewed all the different bids, the bid tab, and we looked at all these proposals. So just kind of wanted to ground us in that in case there's anyone who's watching who might be new to this process. So because you've seen a lot of this presentation before, I'm going to just kind of do the top highlights, but of course, feel free to stop me if you have questions. I'm happy to talk about any of it further. So just for background, in 2008, the town assumed service of all the non-Rock Creek served areas for waste collection. And we're currently in a 4-year agreement with Waste Connections for just over 1,000 customers for weekly trash, weekly recycling, and optional bi-weekly compost. And it's just under 15 for the weekly trash and recycling and an additional 15 for the bi-weekly composting option. And all the carts are those big 96-gallon toters. In our sustainability action plan, those check marks are waste diversion potential. So contract is a big area for looking at policy that has potential to divert a lot of waste for the lowest cost. And just a refresher again of our residential single-family zero waste goal of 65% diversion from the landfill by 2030. We've done a lot to improve that so far, but if we want to keep going on this trend line, looking at things like pay-as-you-throw and including organics in our collection contract are going to be really essential. In terms of themes from the residential questionnaire, of course, that whole report is in the packet again. I would say the two top themes are that, there's no one-size-fits-all approach that's going to be perfect for every single resident, but we have heard a request loud and clear for different cart size options. So people really do want to pick the right level of service for them. In terms of the themes from TASP, pay-as-you-throw is really common regionally. I think we heard in public comment that it's common.
Can I stop you there for a second,
Sure.
Alexis? And I know you'll probably get into this, but so if you don't want to answer it now, you can just answer it when the time's right. But can you speak to helping the residents make the decision about what size cart works for them?
Yes.
What options did they have if they choose the wrong size, and what assistance is available? What are the consequences if they choose the wrong size? Can they get a different size if they decide that they need something bigger or smaller?
Yeah, so I'm happy to talk about that now. I think you'll see later in the presentation, we're proposing that this new contract start April 1st. So we want to give a lot of time. We know this is a little bit complex with the amount of changes that we're considering. So we're looking at things like ahead of that, obviously through all of our communication channels, but we could have a set of the bins here at Town Hall or at the community center, places where people can see them in person to really see what sizes we're talking about, since I think a lot of people may only be familiar with those 96-gallon size. We're definitely going to do a communications push just in general. And then we're actually looking at using our Boulder County Sustainability Grant funds to do some sort of marketing behavior change combination related to this, just to really help people understand what that messaging, what does this all mean? What does pay-as-you-throw? What do the options look like? And then you had one other, the cart size changes. Right now in the contract, people have 3 changes per year. Obviously, we'd like to do a lot of that work up front because it's a big investment for Republic to purchase these carts. They don't keep a ton of inventory on hand, so we don't want everyone to pick a default option and then change their mind later. But again, having that window where people can understand what the options are up front, but then if it doesn't work for them, they try something out, they say this is not the right size, then they will have that ability to switch for free.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So just additional task themes. There's a lot of different ways to manage pay-as-you-throw. It's really common. Different communities and neighborhoods in Superior are going to have slightly different waste priorities, but space constraints are incredibly common. And that education outreach piece is going to be really essential. No matter which path forward we choose here, it's going to be really important that we help people understand, what can go in these carts. It'll be the first time that a mailer goes out every single year to every single resident on the contract of what's recyclable, what's not, what their calendar is, but just really understanding all these different things that may be options now. I'm not going to go into this too much. This is in the packet as well, but we did collect information from different communities in the area. Again, pay as you throw is really common. Typically, it's biweekly recycling service and varying approaches to organics, but I think more and more frequently too, we are seeing that the outreach and education piece is getting added in, as we know that to reach these goals and to have people being recycling and composting properly, that's a really important component.
Alexis, whether it's now or later, I do want to hear from Republic on how they would manage weekly recycling relative to the organic and the need to clean the truck out, because all 5 of those communities are on biweekly recycling. So the operational piece of it's important to me to hear at some point.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And we do have Mark Petrovich, a representative from Republic, here to answer questions. So we received bids from Republic Services, Waste Connections, and Western Disposal, and we evaluated all those proposals on a number of different factors. So we did look at price, of course, but also looking at the customer service they can provide our community, looking at the track record, particularly for managing something new like pay as you throw. We really want to work with a partner to the town on that, looking at their educational outreach offerings, and looking at the sustainability components as well. So this is one piece of a cost service comparison sheet that is part of the memo packet. The top box in the light green there is kind of what was proposed at the work session of weekly trash, weekly recyclables, and every other week organics, plus the cost of the EV trucks for the bolded price on the right there. And then again, you're only paying for the trash size that you pick. So any size of compost cart, any size of recycling cart is included in that. You're really just paying based on your trash cart size. And it's compared with the current service level below. In that cost comparison, there's also a couple other options that I just went ahead and put together based on some feedback.
And also just to clarify on that last slide, I think, and whether you're going to be talking about this later, we know that the Waste Connections number for 2025 has gone up, right? So that comparison for the 1492 is now actually like 1790.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that 1790 price is what it will be for, if we start on April 1st, that would be the cost for residents that do not currently opt into compost service for January, February, and March. And those that do opt into compost service, it would be that 1790 plus the 15 a month. Here's a couple alternate service levels showing what's changed in each one. This is for every other week recycling. This is for no organic service, and this is for no EV trucks. So I just tried to kind of present a couple different scenarios. Oh, and then this is the cost comparison for both residents in that first column that are not currently subscribed to compost service. And then in that second column, for those residents who are currently subscribed to compost service, what that price difference would be. I'm going to turn over to Mike Foster. He is online because he unfortunately has the flu, but I am going to insist that he still wanted to present. So I'm going to turn it over to Mike to present the ACE's recommendation.
Thank you, Alexis. Good evening, board. I'm sorry I can't be there in person. As Alexis said, I have the flu, and I decided to keep my cooties at home tonight. ACES had a very robust discussion at our October meeting to really reaffirm our recommendation to the town board, which is a pay-as-you-throw model, weekly landfill and recycling collection, every other week organics with electric vehicles. We had a very robust discussion about the EV trucks, and what it came down to is, for as long as Superior has been around, we have been externalizing the cost of pollution onto our most vulnerable populations, our seniors and our kids. And by going to switching to electric vehicles, we are internalizing the cost of that pollution, and it's $5 more per month per household, which ACES believed was a very reasonable amount of money, given the benefits that we're going to have. At the Ecotoberfest, I also had the pleasure and the opportunity to sit inside Louisville's electric vehicle truck and talked with the operator for quite a bit of time. And I can say, without a doubt, this is going to be the safest heavy-duty vehicle on Superior streets. Its 360-degree view camera allows the operator to see anything that comes even remotely close to the truck, whether it's a kid, pet, a ball, anything. And so this is going to be, again, a very, very safe piece of equipment. And so, ACES thought that with the increase in safety to our neighborhoods and the reduction of pollution and alignment with all of our sustainability goals, we felt that and believe that the recommendation that we're putting forward tonight is the right one for Superior. It'll keep Superior being a leader in the state of Colorado. And while we won't be the first community in the state to have electric trucks, we will likely be the second, which is still something to be incredibly proud of. We're still taking a leadership position, which is, I think, important to the town board and has been echoed and asked of the board in the past. But we want to be a leader in this space. And so we're putting forward what we believe is a leadership position. So with that, thank you, and I'll turn it back over to Alexis.
Great. Wait for that to switch over. All right. So I just wanted to kind of wrap up with what this rollout timeline looks like. I mentioned this already, but we're proposing a service start date with Republic on April 1st, 2025. That'll really allow more time to send out postcards to residents, to get that feedback around what kind of carts they want, to work with HOAs on how this might work for them. And to avoid the Christmas holidays. We know that's a tough time to be reaching out to people and getting any sort of feedback back. Waste Connections has agreed to continue to serve until that March 31st, 2025 deadline with that rate increase that we already talked about. And I did just want to highlight that if the board decides that the town contract will serve all residents and includes the Rock Creek HOA area in 2028 when their current agreement ends, that as part of our 2028 renewal discussion, adding 2,800 carts and vehicles to serve those households is going to be a significant capital expense. So part of that discussion would potentially be a term expansion to this agreement to kind of spread out those capital costs over more years. So something for a future board to consider, but just wanted to note that.
Do we have any rough idea of what that would be?
In terms of
The significant capital outlay?
They're about 800,000 a truck. Hey, good evening, Mayor, Trustees. My name's Mark Petrovich, and I'm with Republic Services. So 2,800 homes, probably add 3 trucks in order to pick that up. Now, we manage that because we would not just do all of that in one day. We'd probably spread it out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe Thursday to spread that out to lessen the amount of capital expense. But you would have trucks you would have to purchase, drivers for those trucks, and then also you would need almost 9,000 carts to get that on board. And so what I asked Alexis to do when we were putting together the sample contract is just to put some language in there to say, when we get to that point, we want to sit with the city and discuss a new term to spread that cost out over probably a 5-year period is the norm for us to amortize that over time, to bring those trucks in and then take the contract an additional 5 years from 2028 to bring them all on and bring the capital in. So nothing's set in stone. It's just language in there that we would sit down and have a negotiation to discuss.
Okay, yeah, that's good to know, and I appreciate that. And maybe that's some food for thought to think about, maybe grant opportunities between now and then where, who knows what the state would be offering to try to encourage, EV trash trucks. So.
But just to be clear, operationally, we'll be rebidding the bigger scope at that time anyways, right?
Well, it's 3 years from now, and this is a 5-year contract that we're considering. We wouldn't be rebidding it yet.
Okay.
All right.
All right, that's what I've got for you.
Okay. Thank you, Alexis. Thank you, Mike, for your presentation, and I hope you feel better. Questions from the board? For staff? Otherwise,
I guess I hadn't thought about, we were in a contract, and then if we bring on Rock Creek, we're going to have to expand the contract and therefore negotiate a longer term at that point before the term's over. So I wonder, wouldn't mind hearing, does everything come up for renegotiation at that point, or do we end up with some motorized trucks because we can't come up with I'm just sort of curious what could happen, since it's not like this is the end of a contract and we're starting a new one, it's mid-contract. Could you maybe speak to that a little bit? But what you're thinking, is it we're going to have 2 years left in the contract, so would we end up going 7 years from that point, keeping all the same?
We can run a couple
rates,
different models, right? If you're 3 years into it and then we have 2 years left, then there would be 7 years left on that contract, and we could re-amortize the whole thing and come with new pricing. The longer the term goes, chances are pricing is going to be a little better because you're spreading it out over a longer period. Or we could just go from that time period and have those 2 years fall off and just start 5 with 3,800 homes and go forward 5 years with the program with Rock Creek in the system.
Okay, so it sounds like you're open to figuring out the best way to do that.
I would say at that point, we would probably run a couple of models. We would run a 7-year model, we'd run a 5-year model with the capital that's needed, and then present those numbers to the board and say, what do you think? What would you prefer to do?
Okay.
It's just, for us to bring that capital in, if it's less than 5 years, it's going to get expensive to cover the cost of the equipment.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you.
and we could always negotiate an amendment to this contract that expands the scope of the service and, builds in the contingencies for the additional capital outlay plus the additional homes that would be assumed into the contract. So, but that'll be a problem for another day. All right.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about what this might look like 3 years from now when the Rock Creek piece of it rolls in, and whoever the carrier is in Rock Creek rolls out potentially. But I don't want to disrupt the work that's been done here because we're really focused on the 1,000 homes. But can you kind of walk us through operationally how Republic would handle the one community that wants weekly recycling versus all the other 5 that are on biweekly recycling? For Superior, the scope of work that's being considered here is weekly recycling and biweekly composting, but all your other agreements are biweekly recycling.
Yeah, so that's just a routing issue. That's just so for example, Lafayette and Louisville, well, not Lafayette, they went to weekly organics, but Louisville has weekly trash and every other week recycle and organics. And basically the truck that does the recycle 1 week, the other week they do organics. You can mix the truck. We don't commingle the material, but you can empty the truck and clean it out, and then it's ready to go for another waste stream. So the folks here in Superior that would have weekly trash and weekly recycle, that truck would do that every week. And then we would have another truck that would do the organics on an off week, and then it just wouldn't be here on the off week.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It did. I think the note that Alexis sent is that the truck would be picking up organics, go back to the headquarters, get washed out, and then come back to Superior for recycling.
It could. So we have 4 EVs in Louisville. And then we're going to be servicing Superior in 1 day. 1,000 drive-bys for a truck is kind of at the top end, kind of pushing it. And so we may have one of the 4th EVs come and do partial routes. Got it. So they could come in and supplement that. And that's just a routing issue for us to figure out. You could have a driver that comes in and he'll do 300 drive-bys of recycle, and then he'll go empty at the recycle center. They clean the truck out, and then they come and collect organics for 300. We could divide it up a couple different ways.
Okay.
I can assure you nothing gets commingled in the same truck. They don't power wash them out. I just want to be clear with that. They empty the load, and they clean behind the blade, and they clean it out, and it's ready to go. And so you really don't have any cross-contamination when you go about it that way.
Okay. All right. That helps. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Additional questions? All right. I'd like to open it up for public comment at this time. Anybody here in the boardroom like to give public comment? With or without props? preferably props. All right, seeing none. Anybody on Zoom like to give public comment? Also seeing, there we go, Lisa Barnes, you're recognized for public comment.
Hi, I just wanted to reiterate what Mike Foster was mentioning, how important it is not only to have the organics pick up, which is great, and have that available so that it's easy for our residents to appropriately dispose of their organic waste, but also the EV trucks, which are really going to be a benefit not only for the environment, but also for our residents, because they're also much quieter than the diesel trucks that currently go around our neighborhoods, and they are safer, and they are going to have considerably less pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. So I would strongly suggest that I support the ACES recommendation of approving the contract with the EV trucks and the every other week organics. And of course, the pay-as-you-throw, which I think is going to be a real benefit to especially to the residents that have only 2 people in their household, the elderly people that no longer have a big family. They can get a smaller bin for their trash, and they won't have this huge bins in their garage, and they can pay less for their less trash. So that's all I had to contribute. Thanks for your consideration.
Thanks for your comments. Anybody else on Zoom like to give public comment? All right, seeing none, we will turn back to the boardroom. Anybody, public comment? All right, public comment is closed. Back to the board for discussion or a motion.
Can I just ask, you moved so fast, I didn't get to ask a couple of questions I wanted to ask of the Republic representative.
Please.
And they're not real tricky. I just have, one of the things that we've heard is that the electric trucks are much quieter than the gas-powered trucks. Certainly, the engine that moves them from place to place will be different. And so that will be quieter, just like an electric car is quieter than my rickety old Jeep. However, the mechanisms that actually work within the truck, are they powered differently? Do they make difference? The most annoying part of a truck coming down my alley is that arm that moves back and forth. Will the electric trucks have any difference in the sound there?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay,
So
that's all. I didn't think they would.
You will still hear as it goes up the track, like the candy cane for it to dump, right? So you're still going to hear it operating, tipping the can and putting it down. But it's not run with a motor. You wouldn't hear any motor kind of revving up RPMs to run the hydraulics. You won't hear that. But you still most certainly will hear the arm servicing the container and putting it down.
Yeah. I just happened to ask my brother-in-law who's anyway, he said, you're still going to hear the truck. And so I just wanted to.
You will still hear the truck. However, when it's going between homes, you can't hear them. They're like an electric vehicle. They're very quiet.
Which will be very nice.
Yes.
I'll be glad when 2028
well, most
gets here.
people are glad, but there are some people that listen for us instead of putting their can out, right? They wait to hear from us.
That could be true too. I've certainly done that before. And then the second question I had is, when communities make a conversion from having great big trash bins and now they have a little 32 one, do you find any dilemma with all of a sudden people go, oh my God, I don't have enough room in my 32-gallon trash can, and then they start putting trash into either their organics bin or their recycling bin?
So that can happen, and our drivers will be equipped with tags. So part of contracting with Republic is we will design an OOPS tag, is what we call it, specific with Superior. and we'll design it with the city where the drivers will have them en route, and they will tag containers if they're contaminated, if it's visible. People will hide things, but if it's visible contamination, the drivers will tag it. Now, we try to eliminate that with a lot of outreach ahead of time by letting people know, here are the price differences. We give them photos and dimensions of the carts so people can make a reasonable decision on what their waste stream is and what their waste needs are. We do have people that chase price and it doesn't work for them. And then when they have bags outside the cart, we don't collect them, and then they call and they ask why, and we let them know what the process is. So that's why we do offer 3 free exchanges a year. Once people find their level, most people don't exchange that often unless something changed in their life. But when someone first signs up to the program, we try to give as much education as possible. People are going to make mistakes. It's not going to work for them. And then we'll swap that out and give them an appropriate size that works for them. And really, after about 6 months, people find their rhythm, and you really don't have that. But again, if we see people contaminating, we will tag it and leave it, and we'll communicate that with the city in case it escalates and they call the city with a complaint, that we've already tracked and documented what's going on.
Thank you. Perfect. That was my 2 questions of you.
I have a question. This might be the most important question. Do you name the trucks? And if not, can we have a contest to name them?
We do not name the trucks. And so if you guys have a contest or you want to compete with another city, then by all means, yes.
And then I have one question for Alexis. And that has to do with when you convert to the new provider, how are you going to literally ask every homeowner what they want to start with as their trash bin, which is what my understanding is. You'll send something out and you'll ask them. What happens if you don't hear back from somebody? You default to the 32-gallon?
So this is a reason that we partnered with Republic, because they've done a lot of this pay-as-you-throw transition, so they have a good answer for that.
So yes, that is a frustrating part, is that people ignore the outreach and then they get shocked when a cart shows up at their house. So we do a lot of outreach for people to select their cart size. We track all of that, and then we do a mass delivery based on the cart size people want. So if someone does not select a cart, we can decide with the city, we can work together what you would prefer as a default, but what we normally do is we do a 64-gallon. Because if we go to 96, we've had people say, well, of course the trash company's going to the 96, it's the most expensive one, and that makes people upset. Or if you go to the 32, that's too small, and there's no way they're going to function in that. So we go middle of the road, we send them a 64-gallon trash and a 96 and 96 organics and recycle. We go to largest on the sustainable side, and then they'll have to call and make an exchange if that doesn't work for them.
Thank you.
All right. Any additional questions? Comments?
And the one comment I will make, because everybody in the room knows I was opposed to it, I was opposed to the $4.85 because I represent a constituency many of whom are on fixed incomes. And so for me, the $4.85 seemed like a pretty big jump. However, the fact that we then found out that the $17.90 would have been the new rate, and now it's only $2, okay. I can deal with that. But then my next question is, when the complaints start happening, because the process didn't go smooth for people, do the calls come to the town or do they go to Republic?
Well, I suppose they could reach out to either one, right? And they'll get a response. But I mean, we have written it in there that in terms of the customer service, if they, want a different size, if they don't understand that piece, the Republic Services is going to be our customer service wing. We will handle the billing side of it, but they will handle those pieces. If someone wants to talk about the policy of it, looking at, what that public education is like on our website, everything else, that'll of course be on the staff side. So it probably depends on how someone reaches out. They'll get a response either way, but in terms of, getting the right size for them, having someone talk them through that would be Republic.
Okay, I just want to make sure you guys are prepared.
I know, change, no matter what we
Change
do.
is never
change is-
easy.
Yeah.
All right,
tough.
thank you.
Any other questions? All right, discussion?
Just a quick comment, because I know what's baked into the board memo is every week recycling. I'm still a strong believer that every other week recycling is sufficient. I guess there's going to be some peaks and valleys for some folks, because only when you look at our neighboring communities, when you look at what Broomfield, Arvada, and the other 6 that are on the staff memo, every week recycling is the anomaly. The town of Superior is the anomaly. We're the only Boulder County community that doesn't do weekly or regular organics pickup. So now we're joining the mainstream, and I kind of feel like moving in the direction of biweekly recycling is the right direction to go. Whether or not we're ready right now, I don't know. But the point being, the population of these communities that are covered by every other week recycling is 10x where we are, and I want to be careful that we're adding an extra $20 a year. For every week recycling, which is a service that the vast majority of the Denver metro area doesn't get. So it's a point that I don't disagree that there's some folks that peaks and valleys probably have the demand. I don't know, given that we're focused on the 1,000 homeowners right now, and the majority of those are one to two person homes, that the demand is sufficiently there.
I would have to disagree with that. I would say our recycle every week, and we are breaking down every box and literally getting in the trash can and stomping on it to make it all fit. It is full every week. There's maybe 2 or 3 weeks I can count all year that we don't have a full recycle. So I think if we're trying to push for sustainability, if people don't have room in the recycle, it's going in the trash. And so, I think for the price difference, giving our residents that option, especially because I know I'm not alone in having a full recycle every single week. If you've got 2 weeks, then you've got an entire recycle container that's getting pushed into the trash. So I just think if we're pushing sustainability, we need to stick to that and make sure that we're making it available for people.
It would be interesting, though. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I don't know, Alexis, if we have any information, like kind of surveying the community in terms of because we can have anecdotal experience on, and this is what my house does, and that can be completely different from your house and completely different from your house. But do we have an idea community wide as to how many recycling cans are going in a third full, a half full versus 100% full each week? And if not, can we start collecting that data? It would be interesting to know, because I think that would make a better informed decision going forward, because I'm with you, Neil. My personal preference would be to do every other week recycling. I think that's consistent with our neighbors, and I think that would be fine, but I also don't have the data necessarily to back that up.
I don't think we have data for that currently in terms of how full the carts actually are without doing lid flips and going out and doing those walks. But we did ask people about that service level as part of the survey. It seems like a lot of people, anytime you have a current service level, people tend to like what that level is. There were a lot of people in favor of it, but I don't know in terms of how full those bins are. And I don't think we've necessarily done enough to talk about breaking down those boxes. I suspect for a number of people, certainly not for everyone, that if they were fully breaking down those cardboard boxes and some of those other pieces, they might have more capacity in there. But it's something that we could look at doing to get information from people on how full they think their cans are.
Yeah, the survey you did, 81% of the people agreed or somewhat agreed or definitely agreed that they wanted to keep weekly recycling. But because of my awareness of the discussion we're having right now, I've actually become very aware of breaking down my boxes so that they fit in the recycling bin. And I literally put out recycling once a month. So, but I'm a single lady who doesn't order 9 million things off Amazon. But is there any way that we could test every other week recycling and see if people go nuts? And then if it doesn't work, then we go to weekly recycling. I know, I'm just throwing little troubles out there, but it seems, because you can select a larger recycling bin. You know, you're going to have a little teeny tiny trash can. Yay, I can't wait till 2028. But I just wonder whether if we went every other week recycling, it won't save us $1 million, but it does save our constituents some money. And so I would like to see us consider every other week recycling. And Nick's going to say, no, you can't do that.
No, you can't do that.
Always say no.
I know, I'm the worst. So, that's right. It's in the scope, weekly or bi-weekly. So if you wanted it really wouldn't look like a test. And right, it's going to change, and this is more Alexis's zone too a little bit, but it's probably going to change the pricing as well. So I'm thinking just purely legally in contract terms, and then if Mark wants to come back up as well, I mean, I think you got to kind of pick one or the other, or else you're going to end up amending the contract, and then amending the contract is easy. I think it's actually maybe even more operational about how that actually is processed.
I would say if we've got over 80% of our residents saying they want every week, and that's saying that they need that, in my opinion, then for the price difference, because I remember it was not much, I think we should stick to that.
$1.80.
Well, it wasn't 80% of our residents. It was 80% of the respondents, which is 162 or 182 out of 1,100. So, yes, I think we have some good data, but we all know how people fill out surveys. So I would personally like to see us consider every other week recycling. So
I would
that's
think
it.
if 80% of those that took the survey are saying that they want it, and it's a minimal price difference, I don't understand why we're just going to get a ton of complaints. So why would we do that when our residents who have taken the time to take the survey are telling us that that's what they want?
Well, I mean, we make decisions based on what we think is in the best interest of the community, and we're always trying to figure out what the right calls to make. And looking at the survey data is one data point among others. I mean, the way I look at it, my personal opinion is I think every other week is actually appropriate and would be fine. And would people be upset for a month? Yeah. And then would they get used to it and we would never hear from them again? Because change is hard. Whether it's restriping Rock Creek Parkway or going to a different vendor, whatever it is, people like their routines, they like what they're used to. And anytime you try to implement some change, there's going to be, I think, some pushback from members of the community. But I mean, I'm still comfortable keeping it. I mean, we're implementing some change here regardless by going with the organics as well, and the EV trash truck. So from my perspective, that's not a deal breaker. So my personal opinion is I'd be fine with it, but I'm also fine with keeping weekly recycling. That's not a hill that I'm going to die on.
And I'm going to jump in because everybody else is talking, and I'm going to just start talking. So we're avid trash avoidance in our family to the point where we pay even extra for other services that even won't be included in this. And we do fill our recycle bin quite a bit. We do a lot of projects and things. We are still getting resituated after the fire, but even looking around and looking at trash cans, I mean, it'd be nice if everybody broke down their boxes and maybe they'll learn. And if you did every other week, maybe they'd figure it out, or maybe they wouldn't. And we'd end up, like Trustee Miller said, with people putting stuff in their trash cans. And I think if our goal is to encourage and drive recycling and compost, that let's just provide the service level to everybody so that they just have it. Every compost, I get it. That's be tough to push, compost every week. I get that, but we all, I mean, with the amount of product that's getting shipped into town and the cardboard that comes in with it, I think it's a reality that's not going away. I thank God we collect our sales tax on Amazon, but it is a reality of the way life is, and I think that's going to continue to increase. I think deliveries are going to continue to increase, and I just think we're going to fill those cans, especially families. So I'd hate to go to every other week and take that option away. from us. We would probably have to jump up and down on And I have. I've even had to get in there and push down our recycling from time to time, even with every week. So I think it's important. And for $1.80, I mean, we're sitting here throwing out $5 a month for electric vehicles. The $1.80 to ensure we have a consistent trash and recycling program every week is worthwhile. That's my thought.
I want to comment on the 80%. So if as a board, take Rock Creek Parkway, for example, we knew it was the safest thing to do. The experts told us, and the community came and said, we don't want that, and we did it the way the community wanted. So if we have a survey and it has a majority of the people who took the survey giving us the information and telling us what they want, we don't get to cherry pick those things. If we've done the outreach, we have the public feedback. So I think we need to make the decision based on what the public said, or apply that to any issue that comes. That means whenever we do public outreach, regardless of what it is, we can say, oh, well, only so many people took it, so we're just going to decide what we want to do ourselves. So either stay in the lane and do it that way, or don't use that as a defense when it's something that you don't want to see happening in the town. We either do it all the time, or that's a huge distrust from the public that we didn't take their feedback. So
I think the issue is the survey it wasn't quantified. I mean, we could have easily got quotes that said every week recycling was going to be $10 more per month. Like we happen to have a number that is like $21 per year. It's a relatively small number in the grand scheme of things. But if it had come back as being $15 extra per month, no one would have suggested every week recycling. And that's the problem with the surveys, because we went to the survey without any data, and now we have it, but we don't have time to go out and do another survey. Because I think everybody would come back for $1.80, we'll do it. But if we, like with some of these other carriers, if it is an extra $8, $9 per week, will people really do it? And I think the answer would be very different. And that's the problem with theyese surveys, is like, there's a point in time when we take them, and then we got to interpret it with the additional information, which we have the bid tabs to do that. So that's my challenge is, the survey is what it is. It's a point in time, and going forward, if we offer people a way to reduce the cost of trash, let's try it for a year with weekly recycling. We can find a way to reduce the cost by going to every other week recycling. Maybe people will want to do that.
I think that if it's such a low price point, we don't take things away from people. That just, there's no outside of like sustainability goals that are important, but sometimes not equitable, that why would we take things away from people for such a low cost to keep it the way that it is?
I mean, if you think neighborhoods, I mean, downtown, when we first moved there, they actually had every week recycling, and then they stopped it, and they went to every 2 weeks, and the people lost their minds, because the people that live in downtown more often than not tend to be very, very eco-centric, very, very environmentally friendly. They're very progressive. They want to live in a community where the walking score is higher. They want to drive their cars as much. There's a lot of EVs. I'm nearly hit by a Tesla walking my dogs every day in the community. So when I see my recycling go on and a lot of other neighbors go on, it's pretty well packed, and a lot of the people do break down their boxes and they do try to do the right thing. So, I mean, I'm for keeping it the way we've got it for the recycling. I just think, for that certain neighborhood, they recycle the heck out of things. So, I'm for keeping it every week recycling.
Yeah, the last point I want to make is when there was a question that was asked regarding cost sensitivity, and we're talking about not taking away services, but 41% of the people who responded said they would not be willing to pay more for additional services. And we all seem to be discounting that. So I'm okay, $2, but let's not use the data because we think you can use it to defend something and discount the fact that you also have 41% of the people who said they did not want to pay more. And we are all asking them to pay more. So let's just not use the data because it builds some cases and not others.
Well, but it is important to remember that 40% wasn't the majority, so 60% said that they would be willing to pay more.
No, that's actually not correct. 28% said they would be willing to pay $1 to $5 more per month. There was no 60%. There was nothing like that. It was 41% said they would not, and 28% said they would be willing to pay $1 to $5 more. But I'm okay with it.
at the end of the day, we need to make the decision on what we think, the data shows and what we think is in the best interest of the community. And from my perspective, I appreciate staff's recommendations, and I really appreciate ACES's recommendation. They've been studying this long and hard and thinking really long and hard about this. We passed our sustainability action plan back in 2021, and there are very few kind of milestones along the way where we can actually really move the needle in terms of making progress towards our ultimate goals of being net zero by 2050. This is one of those goals. And this is one of those opportunities. So from my perspective, I'm supportive of following ACES's recommendation. I really want to do the EV trash trucks, and I am fine going with every week trash and recycling, and then every other week composting, and let's see how it goes. And in the event that we need to make changes in the future, I mean, we're going to need to make a change once Rock Creek comes online, and to the extent that we see different needs in our services, I'm sure Republic would be willing to talk to us about how to best configure this on a going forward basis, because we're rolling out something new. It's a good thing, and let's not lose sight on that. So I'm supportive of the
Just
motion.
a quick question: is there weight measurements when you're dumping? Do you know how much you're dumping?
That technology exists, but no, we don't. In order to do something like that, you'd have to have an RFID tag in the cart and then software on the truck to actually weigh it. But it's not common that communities want to pay extra for that kind of software.
Another $1.25 a month or something.
Yeah, but the technology does exist.
Right. Okay. But good to know. Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion?
Just the last comment. I do want to thank everything that ACES has done, and Alexis. This has been just going back for the last year and a half, and even going back to the original contract and how confused the board was 3 years ago on the entire exercise. This has been, we're actually having a real conversation about how do we get people to do more stuff, as opposed to, I don't understand what this means, and that's all we ended up doing on the dais 3 or 4 years ago. So this has been a sea change. I didn't realize that we were the only community in Boulder that wasn't composting, so that's incredibly embarrassing. Rock Creek's a different animal, and I've been composting for a million years, but the fact that we are the only community within Boulder County that's not there yet is just, it's ridiculous. So thank you for getting us there. Thank you for getting Republic to the table on the EV trucks, because again, that wasn't really part of the scope. It was just how do we get recycling and composting where it should be. So I'm ecstatic where we're at. I'm actually going to vote no on this, but only on this every week recycling. I'm super supportive of everything here. I actually think, again, part of what we're trying to do here is drive the community in a specific way. And if our community is everybody outside of Superior has already gone to every other week recycling, we've got to find a way to get there. So I'm not willing to just go with what we got here. I'm only gonna vote no on that one thing, but otherwise 99% of what you guys have delivered is I'm 100% behind.
All right. Others?
Say well said, except for the every other week thing. I agree.
I will entertain a motion to approve the waste collection service contract with.
I'd be happy.
Sorry? Michelle's welcome to bring her props whenever she wants for additional education and outreach.
I found the resolution if you.
Can I just add one thing about the other
Yeah, come up to the podium, please.
Since I can represent the BCRC, the Boulder County Recycling Center, when the recycle bins get full and the lids don't close, we get a litter problem, and we get wet recycling that is so hard to sort at the recycling center. It's really an operational nightmare. So by having every week recycling, our lids will be closed because there'll be less volume, we'll have less litter, and we will be able to sort properly at the recycling center. Thank you.
All right, Michelle, you maybe changed my mind. I appreciate that. Especially with the, because one of the things is with the wind issues we have here, the last thing we need is a bin getting toppled over and ending up all over the HHR. Move to approve Town of Superior Resolution number R dash, do we have a number?
Do we have a number, Lydia?
Yeah, it is 60.
Resolution number R-60, Series 2024, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Superior approving an agreement with Allied Waste Transportation Incorporated, DBA Republic Services of Denver, for waste collection and hauling services.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Shah and a second from Trustee McCool. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Hammerly?
Yes.
Trustee Cowish?
Yes.
Mayor Lasis?
Yes.
Trustee Serbu?
Yes.
Trustee Miller?
Yes.
Trustee McCool?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Shaw?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, it passes unanimously. Thank you, ACES. Thank you, Alexis and staff, and thank you to the public for comments. Okay, it is 8 o'clock, and before we move on to our next item, why don't we take a 10-minute break, and we'll be back at 8:14.
Jen Willard is wondering if on Facebook you can share a reel on your community page. I don't know much about Facebook.
Brad want a reel.
That was on 016.
Okay. We'll just ask you as we're doing it. Okay.
Hey, Neil, the next young.
All right, we're back. We're on to item 6, which is a consideration of our ordinance amending section 10-5-90 of the Superior Municipal Code regarding open fires. This is our second reading.
Hi, Board. So this is our, like the mayor said, this is our second reading. However, it looks quite different than the first reading. I got a lot of feedback from you guys. I incorporated. So just a couple things. When I came to you guys with this sample the first time, it was a revise and, it was a replacement. And it was about outdoor fires, and it was quite broad. And it cracked down on a lot of different fires. Given the feedback I got, and then Mayor Pro Tem Shaw's Portland regulations, I incorporated those, and I found it was actually a bit easier and cleaner to just amend what's on the books right now, and that's a little bit easier for the town and code enforcement and staff and the public to kind of know what's going on. So you can see it here. This is the black line version, and then I'm happy for any comments on this.
And then I'll just add, we shared this with the fire district and received comments from them and incorporated some of those comments into the ordinance.
Yeah, they had a lot of comments on the first reading. On the second reading, they didn't have a whole lot. They liked this one more. They found it more enforceable.
So one of the things that's in the staff memo is staff's looking for direction on the 25-foot radius, right?
Just given the setbacks of a lot of the backyards, might eliminate anybody able to have, a fire pit or something like that, so.
And just for clarification, that this is not applying to anything with the on-off switch.
Yeah, correct. So as written, this is just a wood burning fire.
This is wood burning fires.
Of all sorts.
Right, whether it's in a pit or in the chimenea, or whatever they call it.
Yep.
Okay. I mean, I guess my thinking is I'm open to a revision down from 25 feet. So, I want it to be, safe and appropriate. But I don't want it to be, unworkable if there's a reason for 25 feet, like from the fire district's perspective or, staff's perspective. I'm open to that as well. But if there's a way to do it in a way that's like safe for the community and keep it at 15 feet or keep it at 20 feet, I'm open to that.
And just to kind of speak to the fire district's feedback, they actually thought that was too far. Because they mentioned that 25 feet from the house, and how I have it written here is structure, so that's also a fence. So that could be kind of you're kind of making a 50-foot diameter, and that's a pretty big backyard.
Yeah, and I think the 25 feet came from the Portland language.
Yeah.
Portland and California.
Yeah.
Yeah, and additionally, at least the Portland one, that fell into the kind of the suggestions and recommendations more than the regulations part of those. Because that wasn't any town, that was just the Portland's fire district's kind of safe fire guidelines.
So do we have any other guidance as to, what is particularly safe, or is this just something that we're doing based on what we think kind of feels appropriate?
The International Fire Code mandates 10. And that's actually already adopted, so.
All right.
That's some guidance.
So we can't go below 10?
No.
All right.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask clarity here. If somebody has a gas, one of these circular things, and they live in a townhouse, it is totally illegal.
No, so since it's gas, it doesn't have that.
It's an on-off switch.
It has the on-off switch or a valve.
As long as it's got an on-off switch.
So it won't have that distance requirement, yeah. Okay. All of these more stringent regulations are all coming for wood burning things.
Okay, I'm just clarifying because I know about 10 people who have them on their decks. And I want to be able to say, I didn't pass that, but I wanted to make sure that it was still okay.
I'm generally okay with, coming up with a shorter distance. The thing that's important here is that it's in I guess the fire pit makes me a little bit nervous. I'm not sure what is a fire pit? What is the definition of a fire pit?
So I guess, without having like a dictionary in front of me, I guess I would define it as kind of a freestanding structure. Like I'm thinking like my parents have one in Indiana. So that's what I'm thinking about is like, it's kind of like a bowl, like a metal bowl.
Well,
and then you put a campfire in that.
Yeah. And I would agree. I'm just nervous that somebody could argue that a fire pit is rocks around the dirt and a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
Right?
So
because I don't know if we can make this a structure that's one of the problems we ran into, and I think it's going to be less likely in original town with the size of the homes and the smaller yards and everything else. But, there'd be burn piles that, would just be huge.
Yeah.
Huge fires.
So, two, I think a couple things. One, it still can't be bigger than 2 feet by 3 feet. So, even if you had that, I'd agree with you and argue that it has to be in something.
Yeah.
And two, always remember kind of in new Section D, old Section C, which has been on the books, even a lawful fire, if a code enforcement officer or a fire official or a cop has an issue with it or finds it's a danger, then it can be extinguished anyway. So there's always kind of that backstop. Even if this seems a lawful fire, it can be put out for in their opinion.
And we do have Sergeant Solomon with his hand raised. So
Oh, do we? Oh, great.
on Zoom.
That's good to hear because when we would call the police, honest to God, they left a fire. It was still smoldering the next morning, and they were like, it's okay. There's no.
I'll recognize Sergeant Solomon.
So-
Thank you for joining us.
Never saw that. Did you?
We had him. Where is he? Oh, we lost him. Maybe he's coming back. He was on the meeting and now he's off the meeting. All right, so why don't we continue, and then when I see him back on Zoom, I'll...
Well, and I guess with it saying that it's equipped with either a lid cover, that probably, I guess you could put a lid cover over a pit in the ground too, but if you don't have a pit in the ground with a lid cover and keep it at that size, it's probably not much different, so. But I'm okay with it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say, as far as the 25 feet, it turns out FEMA actually put a report out, which I'm just finding. Marshall Fire Mitigation Assessment Team, Homeowners Guide to Reducing Wildfire Risk Through Defensible Space. Literally FEMA document, June 2023, which I don't think any of us have ever seen. But, one of the things they do reference is 10 to 30 feet away in terms of keeping the fuels away from structures. So it is a, kind of squishy number, 15, 20, 25. So I'd be okay trying 15.
All right,
Sorry, guys. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, technical difficulty. And one of the hard parts that we have currently at the sheriff's office, we don't have anything to enforce a fire ban in the town of Superior. And so having this ability to enforce something is really extremely important in my mind to be able to do this.
Do you have any perspective on the appropriate kind of space requirement, like 10 foot, 15 foot, 20 foot versus 25 feet?
I think somewhere around a 20 to 25 foot zone would be good for us to be able to enforce. I've had incidences in the past where I've had people, starting slash piles, things like that, and it's been difficult to enforce because there is no real code for it. So I think a 25-foot radius would be probably a pretty good start.
Okay. The only thing that we're struggling with here is that we've got staff telling us that 25 foot, based on the size of the lot configurations, and given that this is from any structures, so that's including the fence lines, from a practical perspective, results in an outright ban in Superior.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but excuse me, at the same point, it's difficult to, if we didn't have a 25-foot ban or if we moved it to a 50-foot ban, then basically anybody could have a fire pit that would be unregulated, if that makes sense.
Okay. We still have in the draft ordinance requirements about the ability to extinguish it and spark screens and things like that, right?
And a size limit.
And what about, people burn brush. I guess if it's within the constraints of this, that's probably fine. Not trash and debris, but, literally brush.
Yeah, I looked at a few others that created kind of longer and longer laundry lists of things just to not burn. I just landed on trash or debris. That was the guidance from Portland, and that seemed to be the guidance here that I got last time. When you start getting in the brush, I was worried that what is brush, right? And then is that really enforceable? If someone's burning a smaller stick, is that brush versus a log that's allowed? So I just stayed away from that. And basically, I really wanted to get away from trash fires, but a different sort of fire than a campfire in a fire pit where kids throw things in type of thing.
And as long as it's within the size limits, then.
Okay.
I'm okay with adopting it as is, and we'll kind of let the sheriff's department sort of see what happens. We can reduce it. I'd rather not start with something that's like at 10 feet and then have to increase it, because I think if you think about where this started, it was with the Sagamore residents really concerned about open fires given the relatively narrow setbacks. And if 25 feet makes it almost impossible to have an open fire, that's probably not a bad thing for Sagamore, and that everybody's got a fire with an on-off switch.
Right. What about excessive smoke? Some of them, there are. That becomes a nuisance, right? And if a fire isn't tended well or isn't done well and you end up with an intense amount of smoke, does that, I don't know, any thoughts on
Yeah.
that?
I don't know. I'd be maybe more interested in other staff's thought and maybe Dave's thought since he's on. The Mountain View brought smoke up. I didn't see that as really fitting into this ban here. I saw that more of as a nuisance. That's something I can add. That's something I wouldn't necessarily want to add to this specific ordinance. But if it's something we want to visit.
We have it covered somewhere, though?
No, I don't necessarily know that this is the spot to cover it. And I think even though smoke comes from fires, I think it's a separate conversation to have about staff requirements for that. Burdens of proof are a little strange for smoke. It could be blowing into your house and then, someone gets there in 5 minutes and it's suddenly not. And handling that, I think, is a larger conversation for a different ordinance and more enforcement than just the fire. So I opted to not put that in here.
So we have provisions in our town code for common law nuisances as well as specific nuisances.
Yeah, and it's not a specific nuisance, and I think you could couch it under a common law nuisance. But again, I don't want to say fully sure one way or another. It would probably take some sort of repetition. I don't think you could bring a common law nuisance claim for someone having a bonfire once or twice a year. But if they're having one every single night, that might be a discussion that our code can handle. But again, I don't really want to opine too deeply on that here.
Yeah, I think a lot of it will depend on how our law enforcement handles any of these complaints. We didn't have great success when Sergeant Solomon, but we didn't have great success when we tried to complain about the neighbor behind us. We ran into basically, it's kind of the way it is, right? And some of them were pretty scary. So as long as we provide direction to law enforcement to enforce this, and pay attention when there are fires that are concerning people, that's probably one of the more important components.
Okay. Other thoughts, questions for staff or council?
You're going to throw out a number, 15, 20, 20.
Well,
you
the
know.
size requirement might actually be kind of interesting because you're talking about 3-foot diameter. You're basically just talking about a fire pit. What about the longer gas-operated ones that you're seeing in a lot more homes now? They're about 6-7 feet long by.
Yeah, that's a different,
It's
that's
got
an
an
on-off
switch.
switch. Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we just get rid of like any like combustible material, like get rid of the wood, ban that.
Well, we
I
could,
know,
but-
I know it's a tough one, but I mean,
That's what item 1 allows.
Yeah.
Within a very narrow constraints.
Yeah.
And that was,
I would-
that was
I would
pretty
be
much what
opposed
first
to an
reading
open fire
was.
ban.
Yeah, that's, and that was, the direction seemed to go not that way.
I wouldn't be opposed to an open fire ban, no.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm sorry, just so you know, the town of Superior is currently muted.
We're muted.
we're muted.
Can you hear us now?
Yep, I've got you.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Yeah, no, I wouldn't be opposed to that. I'm not sure, wasn't sure that was on the table, but it's, I'm not sure why it's important to be able to have open fires, but these days, but.
It would make a lot more sense given the winds are constantly getting
Yep.
stronger and much higher miles per hour, and just have liquid propane or a direct gas line, and then you're good. I mean, or is that just too much common sense?
We had any complaints about not being able to do open fires while we've had stage 2 in place, right? That's an open fire ban, right?
I'm not aware of any.
Yeah, I mean, I was on board with getting rid of it, but I thought, let's maybe 2 steps, sort of constrain what you can do. 'Cause there's a lot of folks that have the solo stoves, those little, metal cylinders, roll it out to the middle of the
Yeah,
street.
true, yeah.
Because we get a block party, because we
Yeah.
use a block party trailer.
Yeah.
Just throwing all the wood chips in there, and it's totally controlled. Now you need to put a wire mesh screen on it. It's 30, 40 feet
Yeah.
away from everybody. But there's 20 people watching it. That would go
Right.
away, and you have to roll out the gas stove kind of thing, which again is doable. But I think that the constraints in here make it relatively difficult to have a wood fire without a whole lot of safety conditions. And maybe a year from now, we just eliminate them entirely. But this is what I thought was a good step in the direction of kind of no one, as far as I could see, California, Oregon has banned wood fires outright. They've started with some relatively strict restrictions on wood fires. People like, the smoke smell.
Well, size-wise, it can't
Yeah.
exist in Sagamore and Old Town.
Yeah.
50 feet your backside. That's not
Well,
gonna
we
happen
we
there.
have plenty of room even in
Yeah,
here.
you've got 2 lots. Yeah,
We have
yeah.
2 lots, so, but not everybody does, but, 15 feet, I'm like I said, I'm not opposed to coming down from 25 feet, but this does feel like it's well contained, but yeah, like I said, I wouldn't be opposed to a fire ban period, but I'm fine with these constraints of, if we want to lower that 25 a little bit to 20 or 15. I don't know what's reasonable. Who has a yard that they might have a fire in here that's, like I said, I can probably go 30 and still be away from.
I could,
How far? Yeah, what could
25 feet or even 15. Yeah.
15, like in the middle of your yard somewhere.
That would be like 8.
No, because you'd be touching your fence.
Yeah.
I can see what my neighbor's cooking
Yeah,
for dinner.
right. Because a fence is a structure, right? You'd have to be,
Yes.
you'd have to have 30 feet all around you to have a 15-foot
Radius, yeah.
radius, yeah.
Why don't we open it up for public comment and then come back
Yeah.
for additional discussion? Anybody here in the boardroom like to give public comment on this item? Anybody on Zoom like to give public comment on this item? If so, please use the raise hand feature. All right, seeing none. All right, we'll be turning back to the board for additional discussion. I am flexible on this. I mean, I don't know what the right answer is. I don't think that the initial discussion that we had back a couple months ago was that we were interested in banning wood fires outright. And if a 25-foot radius requirement basically ends up enacting a ban, then I think that kind of defeats the purpose, and we should have just banned it outright to begin with, rather than just going with 25 feet. So I'm open to doing something that we think that will be workable, say 15 feet. If that's consistent with the fire code, and that's consistent with what FEMA's report references. They said 10 to 30 feet, so 15 feet is within that. That seems like it would work for Superior. There's still additional requirements that are, I think, making this safer than we're currently at. So that's kind of the direction that I'm leaning, but I'm open to being convinced otherwise.
I think that's a reasonable approach, especially when you do math and 15 feet in one direction is 15 feet in the other. It's effectively a 30-foot radius at that point. So, which is still difficult for a lot of homeowners. So yeah, I think that's a reasonable tweak.
All right. Others?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance 16.
I'll do it. Town of Superior, or move to approve Town of Superior ordinance number O-16, series 2024. An ordinance of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Superior amending section 10-5-90 of the Superior Municipal Code regarding open fires, with the one edit being section 1, section 10-5-90, section B1 to change 25 feet to 15 feet.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Shah, second from Trustee Hammerly. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Mayor Lysis,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Shaw,
Yes.
Trustee Cowish,
Yes.
Trustee Miller,
Yes.
Trustee McCool,
Yes.
Trustee Serbu,
Yes.
Trustee Hammerly.
Yes.
Thank you.
Passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone, for participating, and thank you, Sergeant Solomon, for participating as well. We're on to items 7 through 10, which is our continued public hearing on our budget items. This is our public hearing and second reading, consideration of an ordinance adopting the town's 2025 budget and resolutions approving the town's 2025 appropriations and levying property taxes for 2025. Item 8, which is a public hearing and second reading, consideration of a resolution approving the Superior McCaslin Interchange Metropolitan District 2025 budget and levying property taxes. Item 9, which is a public hearing and second reading, consideration of a resolution approving the Superior Urban Renewal Authority 2025 budget. And item 10, which is a public hearing and second reading, consideration of a resolution approving the Superior Metropolitan District Number 1 2025 budget and amending Appendix A of the district's rules and regulations. We already gavelled this in originally, so I don't need to gavel it in. We don't need proof of publication because we already had it, right? Or do we need that? We have proof of publication. I'll gavel it in anyway because I've got a gavel. And when you have a gavel, you're supposed to use it.
Jeff Stone, our finance director, is going to go over each of these budgets with you and just update you on any changes that have been made since your first reading, and then answer any questions you might have. Jeff?
Thanks, Matt. Jeff Stone, town staff, mayor and board. This will be pretty brief. All I've got are kind of the two changes we made from 2 weeks ago, and that being that we got the new trash rate for the first quarter of 2025. And so that's going from $14.92 to $17.90 in the governmental fee schedule. And then we also made the change that Mayor Pro Tem Shaw brought up on the research fee for town personnel for open records requests, changing to the exact $41.37 from the $41 we had in there, then the $41.37 is allowed by the state. That's the only changes that we made to the documents that you saw 2 weeks ago. So unless you got any other questions, I've got nothing else presentation-wise for you.
Can I still ask for a change at this point? The $50 charge for using the trailer, can we make that not be a charge?
Yeah, that's up to you guys.
I think that the park committee was surprised that that was a fee, and the intention was for people to be able to use that with no cost. And it's not a big fee, but it is a fee that seems like, because it's not a big fee, we can not charge that fee. And unless anybody has major heartburn about that, I just, unless we start seeing major use of it and a real overuse of staff time, I'd rather not have it and then later go, okay, maybe we need to start charging for this than to just upfront have it out there when we don't even have traction yet for people using it and having it be out there, so. And if it doesn't go away, it's fine, but this is time to ask, so.
Yeah, I think, again, I can't remember if I asked, if I didn't ask, maybe I should have asked, what is the use case so far for the trailer and how much time are we incurring for staff members to deliver it?
A couple people have used it, and Leslie last time said it was about 3 hours usually of staff time.
Per delivery and
For
pickup?
delivery and cleanup, so. And she did run it by Park, and they gave the okay, is what she told me, but that's.
She did, and they were like, oh, okay, but none of them, like, it was, and this isn't anything on Leslie, she was just conveying information to them, but I think they didn't know, like, they were told that that would be a fee, and some of them were surprised about that. I just don't want to put any hurdles in front of people using it, and again, $50 isn't going to stop me from, if I'm like, oh, I want to use this thing, fine, but I'd like to see it get more use before we start charging for that, because if it only gets used a few more times, I just don't think we need to charge people the fee.
I think it's a good suggestion, Jen. It's one of those, like, are we being like penny wise and pound foolish with it? Because, I mean, how much should we spend on the trailer to begin with and all the stuff that's inside the trailer? And if all of a sudden, putting up some sort of barrier to using it kind of defeats the purpose of having it, and we've already got the sunk costs in having it. And I still think that it's a really cool idea. And it seems like the public response to just it being out there was really positive, and people thinking like, oh, it's really cool that the town is doing this. So to then kind of throw in some sort of fee, which I understand kind of the reasoning behind it, but like we have the budget that we were able to absorb the de minimis fee. We're not going to be making money on this thing, but this trailer was designed to foster community gatherings. And so like, why would we defeat that purpose by putting up a fee that all of a sudden could serve as an impediment to having the community gathering in the first place? So I think that's a good improvement, and I appreciate you bringing it up.
Yeah, $50 is like a lot of Capri Suns.
Yeah.
If you're having a block party.
Yeah.
That's your point.
All right. Other thoughts? Any other changes while we're here on the dais? All right, that's something that we can just do with a verbal modification, and that's in the town's, so when we make the motion for the
Fee
town's
schedule.
The fee
budget, fee schedule,
For the fee schedule, yeah.
we'll make that change, assuming that that's where everybody wants to land. All right, any other questions or comments from the board to staff? All right, thanks, Jeff. I'll open it up for public comment. Anybody here in the boardroom like to make public comment? All right, we've got one on Zoom. Brad Walker, you're recognized for public comment.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Just wanted to say that in light of $2 million being spent over the next couple of years for the airport legal fund, I think that I think it's really I think the town board's got a little bit of economic schizophrenia. You're upset about raising fees for trash, and yet you're spending a lot of money on that legal fee. And I think that those legal fees are going to come back to bite the town eventually, if not sooner. So that's really all my concern. Have a good night.
Thanks for your comments. All right, anybody else on Zoom like to give public comment? All right, seeing none, public comment is closed. Any additional questions for staff? I'll close the public hearing, and we can have discussion and motions. Greg said enough. All right. Last thoughts? I'll just say thank you to staff for, the Herculean task it is to put together the budgets for the 4 entities that this town operates on. I know that it's always very difficult. It's hard to predict the future, and that's what we're always doing when we're budgeting. But when I did the State of Superior just a couple weeks ago, looking at how this town has paid down our debt over the past really 30 years. Right now we're at a 25-year, or we're at the lowest rate since it's 25-year low we're at right now in terms of our debt load. And based on what we're tracking for next year, we'll be at more than a 30-year low in our debt service. And that just goes to show the conservative approach that the board has had with spending decisions and just the fiscal management of the town. So I'm very happy and proud of the town's job that it's done managing its finances. We're in a really good position going forward. And I support this budget with the one amendment that we're going to be making tonight to the fee schedule. With that said, anybody else want to make any comments? Otherwise, I'll entertain some motions.
No comments, but I'll echo all of that. I mean, the Finance Committee kind of went through some of this before, so having it come together is good. So I think as we think about the future board in 2025, one thing might be to just leverage the Finance Committee to go through some of the nitty-gritty in the budget, as opposed to bringing the 6 or 12 hours that we're up here for the whole thing. So something to consider, but it's just I think the process has been run really well, and I think the budget is a solid piece of work.
Great.
I got all the ordinances ready and resolutions ready, whatever.
Then you earned the job to make the motion.
I would like to make some public comment.
Absolutely.
Or some comment about it. As I've been out, particularly in the last 2 weeks, trying to meet with our constituents and campaign, one of the things that I've heard more than anything else is the amount of money we're spending. And so I just took a little bit of time and I went back and I just compared what were we spending in our general operating budget in 2019 compared to what we're proposing for our budget in 2025. And that's based on the budget information that was supplied to us. Basically, we're budgeting a 91% increase in what we will budget for 2025 compared to what we spent in 2019. Our staff in 2019 was at 35. We were projected to be at 42 in 2024. The actual staff count right now is 53. On the other side, our capital improvements budget has gone from $9 million to $7,360,000. So basically, we've decreased that by $1.7 million. And yet, we're coming out and asking our residents for basically a ballot issue, which I still support, but I have very deep concerns about how we are absolutely blowing up our general operating budget, and yet we did not spend money where we need to, which is in capital improvements. I will be voting no on this budget tonight, even though I sat through the process. I've spoken with other members of the community who were former board members and who were active when the Finance Committee actually spent significant time going over the budget line by line by line with staff. And I think we need to have a more robust budget process going forward. If I'm reelected, I will be pushing for that. Because a 91% increase in our general operating budget in 6 years, and yet we decrease capital improvements, which is what we're asking our taxpayers to fund. We've waited too long to do these capital improvements, so I still fully support the ballot issue, but I'm sorry, folks, I think we need to tighten up our budget next year, so I will be voting no.
Can you clarify who's on the Finance Committee? Sandy, Mark, and Neil.
But we did not go, the Finance Committee has, apparently what happened was, there was a Finance Committee that was very robustly involved in the budget process. Then the Finance Committee was basically eliminated. There was no Finance Committee for several years. And then I think back when I think it was probably before I was appointed to the board. The Finance Committee was put back into place, but it didn't really exist with much, it was, let's just say that the way we're handling the budget now is different than the way it used to be, and I think we can do our budgeting better than we are doing it right now. And, you know, it's fine for everybody else to pass it, but I will be voting no.
My comment's a little bit different. After going through what we went through to figure out how in the heck we bought a 180 or 250, whatever heck $1,000 bridge inside of a creek improvement project, I've lost a lot of faith in what else might be in this budget that I don't understand and that I don't know. And so for me, the process about how this budget gets handled needs to be revisited in its entirety. It's insane that we couldn't go in and quickly find a capital improvement project of upwards of $500,000 after 30 or 40 hours of work analyzing everything we could think to analyze, and it still wasn't there. It was buried inside of a water and sewer budget or something. I'll support the budget hesitantly, because I believe that how we're doing this and how the public can go in here and understand what each of these line items means, and that there are controls in place that aren't going to allow an acquisition of a bridge and a capital improvement project to install a trail that nobody knew boo about. So that just makes me feel like there's other stuff. That's an easy thing. It's just it's a loophole. It's a bad one. It upset a lot of people. It upset the community. And you know, we've got to figure out a way to make sure something like that doesn't happen again. That just isn't an option. And clearly, you know, our restrictions and controls of who can sign what isn't enough, because this, regardless of who can sign what or who can approve what, it should be crystal clear what is going on. And I don't, even going, I mean, I sat through all these meetings, I'm not crystal clear on what's going on, and I sat here for all these meetings, tried to look through all of this and understand it. It's challenging. And I know it's a big budget and there's a lot to it. I don't know what the answer is, but I think bringing somebody in from the outside that can show us how to do budgeting that the community can trust is important. So those are my comments about it. I'll said I'm okay passing the budget this round, but I think something needs to be done.
I appreciate those comments. I guess my separate and apart from kind of the discussion about Grasso Park, you know, what's budgeted for and what's actually expended are two different things. And, you know, you know, while there are controls that are in place and there are, you know, potentially like improvements that can be made on a going forward basis, you know, budgeting isn't the end of the discussion, it's the beginning of the discussion for when we're spending different things. And, you know, I'm all for suggestions on how we can make improvements to the budgeting process, but it is a complex process, and it is one of those processes, especially if you don't come from, I think, like a finance background, like I don't as a lawyer. You know, it took me years to really feel like I got, and I'm still learning as we're going through, you know, this budgeting process. And I appreciate staff's expertise. I also appreciate having members of our board who are, you know, financial professionals as well, who can kind of add some perspective and you know, comment on the budget. But you know, I don't particularly like objections to the budget at like the 11th hour without like a concrete suggestion on how to improve it going forward. So I'm open to suggestions on how we can improve it, but I just don't think that an objection, you know, at the end without suggestions on improvements is particularly helpful. But
Well, since all of this just transpired in the last 6 weeks, I apologize. And well, you won't have me to worry about after tonight anyway, so it's probably no big deal, but those objections need to be raised. You learn as you go, right? Just like we're all doing. We're trying to learn as we go. And, this is a mostly volunteer board, and there's a high dependence on process and staff to ensure that things are handled properly. And when you find a couple of things that weren't handled properly, it's an instant, for me at least, it's an instant concern about what else can't I trust, right? So didn't have an objection a few weeks ago when we were in the budget meetings. Now I see, why it's important. And you're right. I mean, I understand that the expenditures come later, but not understanding what can go into a particular budget, like a capital improvement project can sit inside of another district, inside of a sewer. That's concerning. That's just deeply concerning. And that's in the budget process, right? Where we spend this much money in this area with this district, and oh, by the way, we can do these other things in there too, but we don't understand. So sorry that learned all this in the last 6 weeks. So that's where mine's coming from.
No, Bob, that's a fair point. I mean, it's taken me some time, because again, there's so many interdependencies and enterprise funds. The money has to be spent within that because it's raised from that. Like, we derive taxes from stormwater fees. And we can only spend that money in the stormwater fees bucket, right? Like, we can't take money out of that. So if it has something to do with flood plains, it has to come out of that bucket. And that's taken me forever. That's what, when we talk about Rocky Mountain Airport, that's an enterprise fund. Whatever money they raise there stays at that airport. They can't pay for deficiencies across Jefferson County because they've got a profitable airport or vice versa. So that is hard to wrap your head around because they're all just buckets of money, but they're impenetrable, as opposed to the general fund and the capital fund. Those things can go back and forth, and these enterprise funds are lock boxes. But I don't disagree. I mean, the budget to me it's a plan on how we want to proceed with the rest of the year, and all the things that come to the board are subject to that board deciding as to whether or not we want to do it. Like, we can, there's roadway maintenance and snow contracts. The future board can say, hey, we're not going to do that road, right? And so it goes out of it doesn't get spent. So we always have ultimate, opportunities to pull back on this, and spending authority within staff is another lever we have of control. But the budget is really just a roadmap on how we want to see the spending proceed.
But not when you don't know about it. And I don't know where that control sits, but.
Well, that sits with the board. We give staff delegation on what they can spend and what they cannot spend above. And that, is something that.
You're also saying that an asphalt trail and a bridge can go into the creek improvement project budget. And that seems really weird to me.
But that was part of stormwater, right? Because it's part of stormwater.
Well, you say right. I'd say what? How can you possibly say that, right?
Because Mile High Flood District is paying for it, right? Because that's how their funds.
Therein lies my concern about this, is people don't understand what you can do. If now all of a sudden we have a stormwater budget that people assume is going to be for stormwater now turns into an 10-foot asphalt trail through a park with a bridge that's $200,000. That's a problem, right? That shouldn't be allowed. Somebody's got to know that you're allowed to do that in a budget, or who's going to look? Because a lot of people are, great, Mile High Flood District's taking care of our creek. They're helping me, making sure we don't flood, Oh, by the way, we can throw in a 10-foot trail and a bridge through.
But it's just like buying, Bob, it's just like buying land along the trail. Like, you could argue, why are we buying the land?
I'm not arguing. I'm saying we should know about it, right? It should be known. It should have been clear. And it's not clear in this budgeting process that you're allowed to do that. I'll put my whole concern about it aside. Okay, let's put that aside. It's not clear inside of the budget process that you would be allowed to do that. That's the only thing I'm sort of raising the red flag about. That's all.
Typically, when we have capital improvement projects, we've got that appendix to the budget document that says, here's this road that we're going to do, and here's this wastewater treatment plant upgrade we're going to do, and these are the sources of the funds. And with that particular project, I agree with you. We didn't have that in a tab in the budget documents, so we didn't have that level of kind of oversight through the annual budgetary process. We also didn't have the specific project approval for SMD number 1, to approve that bridge. So, in that sense, that project did not comply with the rules of the the way that things are supposed to get done. And, you know, that is what it is, and we're learning from it, and we're gonna, you know, move forward and put in controls to make sure that, you know, stuff like that doesn't happen again. And I think, you know, for separate from the fact that we have the bridge, we have at least taken a pause on that project, and it's not moving forward, and there's going to be additional opportunities for public engagement on that. So, you know, that's, I feel like we're doing what we can to sufficiently protect the integrity of the process. But be that as it may, you know, the budget is what the budget is. We need to pass a budget. There's always going to be things in the budget that it's impossible to know everything that's in the budget by just recall, right? And like if you go through the budget, like it's
Right.
You can find you can generally find things, and we've got a really good staff to help us find where to look in all of the various line items. So in terms of what's before us tonight, you know, we've got the second reading, so I don't want us to necessarily.
Yeah, those my parting words. I wasn't planning.
No, I
to propose
appreciate it.
anything. Right?
I think
Just my-
it's fair commentary that you're giving, Bob. So I appreciate that. Anything else? Otherwise, let's get some motions going.
All right, I'll start with the move to approve Town of Superior Resolution Number R-55, Series 2024, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Superior levying property taxes for the year 2025.
Second, we've got a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Shah, second from Mayor Lasis. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Miller?
Yes.
Trustee Hammerly?
No.
Trustee McCool?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Shah?
Yes.
Mayor Lasis?
Yes.
Trustee Serbu?
Yes.
Trustee Cowish?
Yes.
All right, passes 6-1.
All right, move to approve Town of Superior Resolution Number R-56, Series 2024, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Superior adopting a budget for the Town of Superior for 2025.
Second.
We've got a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Shah, a second from Trustee Serbu. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Miller?
Yes.
Trustee Hammerly?
No.
Trustee McCool?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Shah?
Yes.
Mayor Lasis?
Yes.
Trustee Serbu?
Yes.
Trustee Cowish?
Yes.
All right, passes 6-1.
Okay. Move to approve Town Superior Ordinance Number O-14, Series 2024, an ordinance of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Superior appropriating sums of money to the various funds and spending agencies in the amounts and for the purposes as set forth below for the Town of Superior, Colorado for the year 2025. And I think this is the one that references the fee schedule, right? Or did I miss one?
Well, we have a few.
I'm sorry, I missed one. Yeah, I'm
You
sorry.
missed the fee schedule
Yeah, I'm
resolution.
sorry.
But we can do the ordinance.
We'll
that's
do the
fine.
ordinance and we'll go back to fee schedule, sorry.
All right, so we've got a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Shah, second from Mayor Lasis.
Mayor Pro Tem Shah?
Yes.
Trustee Serbu?
Yes.
Trustee Miller?
Yes.
Trustee Cowish?
Yes.
Trustee McCool?
Yes.
Trustee Hammerly?
No.
Mayor Lasis?
Yes.
I had one job.
That ordinance passes 6-1. Now let's move back to the town fee resolution with
Move to
amendments.
approve Town of Superior Resolution Number R-57, Series 2024, a resolution of the Board of Trustees in the Town of Superior adopting a fee schedule for 2025 as amended today.
Is that sufficient? Here. We got a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Shah, second from Mayor Lasis. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Lasis?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Shah?
Yes.
Trustee Cowish?
Yes.
Trustee Miller?
Yes.
Trustee McCool?
Yes.
Trustee Serbu?
Yes.
Trustee Hammerly?
Yes.
All right, that passes unanimously. Next.
Next, we move on to SMID. Move to approve Superior McCaslin Interchange Metropolitan District Resolution SMID-2, Series 2024. A resolution of the Board of Directors of the Superior McCaslin Interchange Metropolitan District adopting a budget, levying property taxes, and appropriating sums of money for 2025.
All right, we've got a motion from Director Shah, second from President Lasis.
President
Roll call.
Lasis?
Yes.
Vice President Shah?
Yes.
Director Cowish?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Director McCool?
Yes.
Director Serbu?
Yes.
Director Hammerly?
Yes.
Sorry to call you Director Shah.
That's all right. I
Vice
didn't
President
notice.
Shah.
Move to approve Superior Urban Renewal Authority Resolution Sura-2, Series 2024, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Superior Urban Renewal Authority adopting a budget and appropriating sums of money for the Superior Urban Renewal Authority for 2025.
All right, we've got a resolution, a motion from Commissioner, Vice Chair Shah, and a second from Chair Lasis. Roll call vote?
President Lasis?
Chair Lasis, yes.
Chair Lasis? Vice President Shaw?
Yes.
Commissioner Cowish?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner McCool?
Yes.
Commissioner Serbu?
Yes.
Commissioner Hammerly?
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Okay. Moving on to move to approve Superior Metropolitan District Number 1, Resolution SMD Number 1-5, Series 2024. A resolution of the Board of Directors of Superior Metropolitan District Number 1 adopting a budget and appropriating sums of money for the Superior Metropolitan District Number 1 for 2025.
All right, we've got a motion from Vice President Shah, second from President Lasis. Roll call vote, please.
President Lasis?
Yes.
Vice President Shaw?
Yes.
Director Cowish?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Director McCool?
Yes.
Director Serbu?
Yes.
Director Hammerly?
Yes.
Thank you.
And finally,
And we are on to move to approve Superior Metropolitan District Number 1, Resolution Number SMID 1-6, Series 2024. A resolution of the Board of Directors of Superior Metropolitan District Number 1, amending Appendix A of the district's rules and regulations to increase the district's rates and fees effective March 11th, 2025.
we've got a motion from Vice President Shah, second from President Lasis. Roll call vote, please.
Vice President Shaw?
Yes.
Director Serbu?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Director Cowish?
Yes.
Director McCool?
Yes.
Director Hammerly?
Yes.
President Lasis?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, passes unanimously. Thank you all. Now we're moving on to our last item for the evening, which is item 11, which is executive session for the purposes, thanks, Jeff, executive session for the purposes of discussion of a personnel matter, not involving any specific employees who have requested discussion of the matter in open session, any member of this body or any elected official, the appointment of any person to fill an office of this body or of an elected official, or personnel policies that do not require the discussion of matters personal to particular employees pursuant to Colorado Revised Statute 24-6-4024F regarding the town manager's evaluation, and to determine positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, determine positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, develop a strategy for negotiations, and/or instruct negotiators pursuant to Colorado Revised Statutes 24-6-4024E regarding the town attorney's evaluation. We have a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
We got a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Shah. Second from Trustee Serbu. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. And we'll enter executive session now. Do you need to give your? No.